Well, there it is. You're looking live. I'm always ready to do my Brent Musburger. You're looking live. We're going to be at Cook County, Chicago, in Illinois, where Jeffrey Skelly's going to be counting the votes by hand to try to figure out who which. It's a huge primary night between crypto, 2 AI companies, and APAC. Yep. I don't know if they're actual candidates on the ballot, but it's my understanding that there's a lot of donors who have a lot of skin in the game. I'm being facetious. Chris Cillizza, it is Illinois primary night. Illinois is home to some amazing political history. I have a little something for my podcast tomorrow. This is a state that has given us 2 presidents and 4 convicted governors. So you never know what you're going to get.
Wow. You know what would be interesting, Chuck, is could we do a states that have more convicted governors than presidents? Now that's
Illinois,
a good list.
Yeah, that's a good list. Yeah, at least Illinois has presidents. I don't think Louisiana has had any presidents, but they've had some convicted governors.
I've had some convicted governors.
We did a college trip in Ohio last week, and my kids were like, "What are fun facts about Ohio?" I was like, "A lot of presidents from here," and they were like, "That's not a fun fact." I was like, "Oh, well, it is." Wow. I said, "I know 2 people who would think it's a fun fact."
It's a fun fact.
Mr. Skelly, let's talk about tonight. It's a Democratic primary. It's the primary focus tonight. We've got open congressional seats. We got the big one is Dick Durbin Senate seat. It's 30 years ago. 1996 is when he got elected. So there's a reason there's so much money being poured into this race, because literally a once-in-a-generation opportunity to become a United States Senator. What are we seeing tonight? You've seen some of the early numbers. What should we know about Illinois compared to how we watched? We know we've got return customers from our Texas live stream and our November 2025 live stream. So give us the sort of how to watch tonight, how to watch the results tonight.
Certainly. Well, a big part of this primary is going to be what happens in Chicagoland, as they call it, which is the city of Chicago, suburban Cook County. Chicago's in Cook County. That will be home to a majority of the votes that come in, a sizable majority of the votes that come in a statewide Democratic primary, and all of the key House races that we're watching. There are 4 open House seats basically 2 of them are because of candidates running for the Senate, Robin Kelly, Roger Krishnamurthy, and then 2 openings because of Jan Schakowsky and Danny Davis retiring. And these are all pretty safely blue districts. Krishnamurthy's is a little less blue, but the others are all very, very blue. So the Democratic primary is the deciding point. And all those districts contain parts or are entirely in Cook County. It's understandable that's the main focus. If you ever look at a general election map of Illinois, these days you do see some of the counties around Chicago and beyond Cook are kind of a lighter blue. But if Republicans ever win a statewide race in Illinois these days, the only blue county in the state is Cook County.
Yes.
Who is the last Republican to win statewide? Is it Peter? What's his name in the Senate?
It'd be Mark Kirk.
Mark Kirk in 22.
Oh, Mark Kirk. That's right. I forgot about that. What was that other guy's name? Peter Fitzgerald. Peter Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
Oh, Rauner
won in 2014. And
don't forget Bruce Rauner. That's right.
Rauner.
That's right. And then lost to Pritzker in 2018 in his re-election bid.
Oh, by the way, let's bring Tom in. Not only is he chiming in the studio chat, he has a hard out, Chuck. So he said Rauner. Bring him.
Well, let me bring on Tom Bowen. Tom Bowen and I go way back. He worked at the hotline back in he might have been there in the 20th century, right, Bowen?
2002.
Okay, so you were a 21st century hotliner. Okay, so we got that going for it, which means we actually had email addresses then.
We did.
But Tom is the guy. You can take Tom out of Chicago, but you can't take the Chicago out of Tom. And in fact, he couldn't stand it. He didn't like Washington. He loved politics, but not enough to stay in Washington. So he does politics in Chicago. Mr. Bowen, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, my friend. Good to see you, Chris. It's been a while.
Hey, man. Yeah, dude. Good to see your face.
And thank you so much for inviting me to join tonight. I'm honored to do it live from Manny's in the background here at the as my election night event is starting to get.
Tell us about Manny's real quick. Tell us about your election night event.
So if you do politics and food in the state of Illinois, then you do Manny's. It is a tradition that goes back as long as any of us can remember. I'm staring at the David Axelrod plaque over that way. But you do your tour on election day at Manny's, and it couldn't be a more perfect place since it is St. Patrick's Day
Yes.
in Chicago. So the river is green, the corned beef is flowing, and the politics, thankfully, are done in about an hour and a half here.
Now, the river is. When was the last time it wasn't green? Sorry, no, I'm just taking a cheap shot.
You know, the plumbers have been doing this for a long time. But anyway,
I will say we don't have much like water contamination to stand on, Chuck, given that DC had like an open sewer pipe in the Potomac for like a month.
So Tom, look, the theme that I can't get away from, and tell me if I'm being, this is the classic case. Us national reporters are looking at Illinois and just see the stench of outside money, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a primary of candidates. It feels like a primary of special interest groups. You've got your fair shake, your crypto people. You've got two different AI folks. You've got APAC. You've got the governor himself, who's his own billionaire, and all of this.
Yes.
Am I being too cynical here about it, or does it feel that way on the ground?
No, it's been something that I think all the campaigns here recognize is the new way you play this game. It is the first time in my career I have seen multiple congressional candidates start their own super PACs beyond even Fair Shake and APAC and the AI crews. It's Robin Kelly, a candidate for Senate tonight. She was elected by Mike Bloomberg a long time ago because of his super PAC, Independence USA. So it has been happening in this state for a while, but the fact that it is in every race now is a new thing. And it is more dominant than, Raja Krishnamurthy's own spending is the most dominant in this race. But there is nobody even remotely close compared to the next 10 campaigns worth of spending, and almost all of them are super PACs.
Hey, Tom, I want to ask you about a guy who's not on the ballot. Chuck mentioned him, but obviously we're interested in Pritzker, billionaire, running for a third term. It seems
he is on the ballot today. He just doesn't have.
He has no opponent.
That's right. He's on the ballot and unopposed. Right. Good point. Good point.
Line for governor. Funny enough, but doesn't look like for any of the other offices. But there is a write-in for governor.
So what do you make of the, obviously for people who have not followed the race, it's a three-way race. You mentioned Robin Kelly, the congresswoman. You mentioned Roger Krishnamurthy, the very well-funded congressman. And the lieutenant governor, Juliana Stratton, is the third. And that is obviously the person that Pritzker is behind, spending all his money on. What do you, I'm just fascinated because if he wins, he's going to take all the credit. If he loses, they're going to be like, if she loses, they're going to be like, how much can you do? But what do you make of that?
And I don't want to be, too cynical about us political hacks and the audience that's tuning in here. But I do think it is important to understand that, the governor is very popular, and he's popular because of his policies. He's popular because of what he's done. It's not because he wins or loses races. And I do think there is a difference between voters and insiders. Yeah. And at the end of the day, what other choice would he make than if he thought the lieutenant governor was the person who should lead the state, were he not here, then she would be a good U.S. senator. So I understand where he's coming from. I understand his commitment to this race. Obviously, I think there's some calculations in, is this a good idea? Is this a bad idea? Likelihood of it. There's some complexity around all that stuff. But I really don't think the average voter in New Hampshire, should he decide to become a candidate for president, or voter in Georgia or Michigan, I don't think they care if he wins a Senate race or not in his home state of Illinois.
Man, they'd be the best informed voter in the country if they were like, but that Juliana Stratton endorsement.
Well, I will say, Tom, what do you think about the potential blowback, at least from the Congressional Black Caucus, being upset with him over sort of all of the spending and Robin Kelly's position in the race?
I think for the folks that don't live and breathe politics like we do here in Illinois, there's some history back there that you got to remember. Robin Kelly was the vice chair of the Democratic Party when Mike Madigan was run out of town. That's the former Speaker of the House, who was indicted and convicted for corruption.
Is he in the governor's wing of the prison there in Illinois? Because there's a whole wing, right? Yeah.
Exactly, right next to. Well, Rod used to own it, but anyway.
Right.
But Robin Kelly was the candidate for party chair, and she was victorious. And then she was challenged the second time around by forces allied with the governor. So, look, I think the complexity around this race has roots that go back a little further, and it's also just a function of we have strong personalities in Illinois. So it's never been a very unified state, in that there is one democratic institution that sort of keeps everybody in line. Like, we butt heads around here. Something about we're a city of neighborhoods. We're a crossroads in this country. So a lot of different folks kind of they get their little share of the turf, and then they fight to keep it. So it's kind of in our history.
Let's talk about the professional political legacy or political obituary for Dick Durbin. And I don't mean to use the word obituary in that, but it's more like, look, his political career is coming to an end, and he's sort of about to leave the stage after this year. What is that loss to Illinois, folks? What is that loss to Chicago? What is that loss? And what does the next senator, or what does a Tammy Duckworth, who's now going to be the senior senator, what do they have to do to sort of fill whatever void Durbin is going to leave?
It's a tremendous void. There is nobody who has, I think, worked harder for all parts of the state of Illinois than Dick Durbin has in his career since I believe it's 94 or 96 when he's first elected. And he was a downstate congressman for many years before that. Dick Durbin is a very strong alumni network of staffers and allies. All of us, even those of us on the periphery of it, are very sad to see him go because he has done everything. He was the person who most strongly encouraged Barack Obama to run for president. And to do that, I think you on this call and folks watching will know about the senatorial jealousy that comes when the new upstart comes in. Dick Durbin had none of that. He saw Barack Obama's future and potential, and he pushed harder than anybody else to make him realize that running for president is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity you have to seize. So the shoes are giant to fill, and I don't think you can ever really fill someone like that. It's just you have to cut your own path as far as Senator Duckworth goes.
You just put your finger on something, though, that I was trying to get at, which is he might be the last ever downstate Democrat.
I was just going to
let
ask
alone
that because you have three
that
from
win,
Cook.
Yeah, that wins
race.
statewide, and Tammy Duckworth is a Cook County-er too, I believe.
Yes, she is.
If I'm wrong.
So
this is Chicago's going to own both Senate seats, which is not the norm.
Well, Tammy's from the suburbs, technically. We'll see if Raja is successful. He's from the suburbs. Juliana is from Chicago. But that's correct. And, as you start counting votes tonight, you'll see maybe the whole turnout level of downstate, which is essentially outside of the Chicago media market. We'll call that 15% on the low end, 20% on the high end. That's not a strong place to run from. It's not impossible. There are candidates down there that would make sense to be successful. But Chicago is the most dominant media market. So if you're known here, that gives you a big advantage with that roughly 75 to 80% of the vote.
Yep.
Gosh, that is a huge chunk. Just out of the
between Chicago and the suburbs, it's just so much.
Right,
it's basically kind of like, in that sense, Illinois has become Arizona now, right? Which is
it's Phoenix and then everything else, right?
Yeah, and the collar counties are the sort of more, they are a more stabilizing and sort of power. They've grown in power since the 10 or 20 years ago. Both the Speaker and the Senate President of Illinois are from the suburbs, and the balance of the legislators have really shifted out there. So the suburbs are a very important piece of this, but it's all in that, like I said, same Chicago media market. And who knows, as the media evolves and people kind of don't necessarily have Channel 7 broadcast as their dominant place for information, perhaps it sort of brackets out a little bit more. But north of I-80 is the way I would say it. As far as where the population sits in this state.
Interesting.
Before you go, Tom, do you have I don't want to say a prediction, but do you have what is your sense? The polling suggests Krishnamurti narrowly with Stratton kind of making up ground and Kelly a spoiler. Is that what your instinct is saying too? Or do you think we could be in for the last time we did this was Texas 2 weeks ago, and I'll say, at least for me, I kept waiting for Ken Paxton to surge and go ahead of John Cornyn. He never did,
happened,
right? So, like, is there like, what do you make of? There's been a lot of public and private polling, but what's your sort of gut?
I think if you're Giuliana's team, closing with kind of a mistaken endorsement from Reverend Jackson wasn't a great way to end the week.
Yeah.
That has been a rough news story to end your campaign on. Yeah.
The Congresswoman Kelly's campaign is, inconvenient for Lieutenant Governor insofar as there's somebody competing for not just black voters, but progressive voters. And that's your swing constituency, is progressive white voters. My expectation here is I could see anything happening because I think as much as we all sort of really,
copping out on us, man.
No, he's getting to it. He's getting to it.
As much as the suburbs, should, support their own with Raja Krishnamurthy, and Chicago should support their own with Giuliana. I think that Trump is such an unusual factor that the character and personalities of the candidates matter just as much. And, Raja very clearly demonstrated to voters, I have the plan. I'm methodical. I am persistent. I'm the underdog who's never going to fight. And the lieutenant governor was a little more sort of, I'm going to go out there and protest and, break down doors for you. So I don't know what voters really, are ready to send forward. Because I don't think voters know themselves.
It's like Tallarico Crockett sort of in their approach.
A little bit of,
right. You were thinking,
are you going to work out? Well, right. It's not quite the divide I've been sort of signaling is that there's basically a divide in the party, not among left and center, but it really is more about, do you fight them or do you start worrying about post-Trump?
Totally.
Probably the way to look at it.
The Krishnamurthy plan thing is interesting.
Yeah.
Whereas
it's like Tallarico
versus plan, or
can't we all just get along? Hey, let's have a methodical plan here. Versus I'm sick and tired of this guy, and I just want to the snakes on a plane candidate. I want these MF snakes on this MF plane.
I will say that given the vote by mail numbers and the turnout numbers that we've seen today, I don't think it's going to be a just blow it out of the water turnout. Probably sort of more typical. I don't think Giuliana's camp is very excited about that. So if you made me choose today, I guess I would have to say Krishnamurthy by a little bit. So I will put myself out there and make a prediction for you, Chris.
I love it. We should let him go.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tom.
Skelly, you got anything? Yeah, downstate. Who worked downstate best?
Krishnamurthy. If you see him coming in near 50 or above, then he's having a great night.
All that TV spending.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, but just
I know.
The infrastructure to do it. And also watch the suburbs tonight. If DuPage, Kane, Will County, Lake County, if you see high Krishnamurthy numbers, he's going to be good. If he's kind of running even with Giuliana, or if you see her blowing it out the water in Chicago, then she's going to be successful.
Good, man.
There you go.
Dude, that's great. I love it. Wait, DuPage, Kane, Lake, and what other one? I want to make sure I get
Will County.
Will.
Your prototypical collars. Kendall's not quite big enough to sort of divine anything out of the vote yet, but I would watch Will, Kane, Lake, and Will.
All right, dude.
Mr. Bowen, always a pleasure.
Tom, so good to see you, man.
And
good to see you guys.
On the White Sox getting a Pope. You may be terrible at everything else in baseball, but you got the
Pope.
Obama
and the Pope.
Obama and the Pope. I mean, a World Series would be nice.
You guys have no idea how much just every month or so there's an amazing reminder of that just we enjoy like nothing else in Chicago.
It is my Tom. As I have family that are a bunch of White Sox fans, grew up on the South Side, and they're Jewish. But they love this Pope. He's a White Sox fan.
They get to say they've been to Aurelio's where the Pope's been.
There you go. It's fantastic.
Thanks, dude.
See you, buddy.
All right. Have a good night,
Be careful. Good to see you.
Now, I know Skelly already knew all those counties, but I just wanted to write them down for myself. Skelly was like, I'll tell you that offline.
Skelly, what'd you learn? What'd you learn from him? What were you looking for?
Well, I think you made a good point about the turnout, and I think it's worth mentioning sort of where Decision Desk HQ's turnout rough estimate at this point was something close to 1.4 million. Now, votes on the Democratic side in the Senate race, basically the range being sort of 1.3, 1.4. And that's interesting. Basically, the last time you saw that kind of midterm turnout was the 2018 gubernatorial primary in Illinois. And that was when Pritzker was winning a competitive three-way race that also featured Daniel Biss, who's one of the major candidates in the 9th District Congressional Democratic primary that we'll be watching tonight. And so just sort of thinking about like, okay, it's on the high end. but it's not necessarily record setting or anything. Like it's on the high end, but like population has grown some. Not a ton. Illinois is not exactly a real fast growing state. But
should we read into anything that we're not seeing a surge that we saw in Texas? I mean, is it a reminder that what happened in Texas is about Texas? Is that, or we're just like not enough data points yet?
I think that's probably a fair way to think about it. Is that we have a highly competitive statewide primary in Illinois, a Democratic leaning state, and we're seeing it look somewhat like the last really notable high profile competitive Democratic primary in the state that was in a midterm cycle. Whereas Texas Democrats, they hadn't had anything like that. And
that's true. That's true.
The state was a very different place. Really. So,
but to Chuck's point, I mean, I do think it's worth noting, right? And we could bring our next guest in, but I do think it's worth noting that like it is not already casting 1.5 times the highest turnout we'd ever see. I mean, it's not like Democrats are like falling all over themselves to vote, but it's a data point.
By the way, I want to reassure folks that we are multimedia at this operation, this live stream with Chris Cillizza, with So What, Chuck ToddCast, and DDHQ. I've got my 4-box up. I got the World Baseball Classic. I got the play-in games for the NCAA. I may or may not have a couple of NIT games on there. So
first 4.
Don't worry. You follow our live stream, and I will let you know if anything spectacular is happening.
And Chuck, remember that $100,000 you bet on the Nats spring training over the Cardinals? We won 1-0. So
that's big. That was big. Hey, look, I'm a little invested. Last night, I was at the Venezuela Italy game in person.
It looked awesome
it was
on TV.
A lot of fun.
It looked so hyped.
As my son said, he goes, I'm really good. I bought the tickets assuming it was going to be USA Japan, because if you looked at the bracket, that was the most likely semifinal for that night, and this was the only way I could make it work because I needed to be. We knew we were doing election night, so I couldn't go to the final, and we end up with Venezuela and Italy, and you know what? Experiencing the enthusiasm of that Venezuela crowd.
Oh my God!
I've seen a Cuban baseball game in person in Havana about 30 years ago, and it was unlike any experience I ever had. Just when you're at a baseball game that feels like a soccer game or a college football game.
Totally.
Right? And you don't get that in American baseball. And I think if it had been USA Japan, it had been a very polite affair, sold out, but just sort of a normal baseball game. With Venezuela and the Dominicans, man, it is a celebration with every bat, every out, everything.
It's so exciting to watch.
It was really exciting.
Like 6 or 9 outs.
It was fantastic. And
the guy who closed was he was amped up.
It does. This is why we're all bummed. Like I wish the Americans were as excited about playing that the Dominicans and the Venezuelans are. Okay, we digress.
We should bring Aaron in. Yeah.
Let's bring in Aaron Covey, our friend from the Cook Political Report. Aaron, good to see you again.
Hey, good to see y'all.
Aaron, have you read all the books behind you like Skelly and I have of the books behind us?
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
I've read all of these. I've read every single one of these.
All checked off. I have
committed
read
to memory.
One.
Chuck doesn't have any books back there. Drawing on conclusions.
I was just gonna say, I'm smart enough not to do that. Aaron, where to begin? We're possibly in for this isn't going to be a short night. This isn't going to be a quick night, and we are going to see all of the divides inside the Democratic Party play out, whether it's in congressional races or in that Senate race. So, tell us what you're watching for tonight.
Yeah, so there's 5 open seats in Chicago, which is, I think, the first time that has been the case in decades. I could not find an exact number of this when I was looking back, but at least since like the early 90s.
It has to be maybe 92. The big
because they squiggle.
It is, exactly.
Gerrymander, they're kind of squiggling out to take in parts of Chicago.
But we had the old Dan Rostenkowski check bouncing and stamp scandals of the early 90s. Right. Early 90s. Imagine we lost a handful we had some open seats in the 92 and 94 cycle.
There were quite a few then. But yeah, you've got 2 of them, of course, because Krishnamurthy and Robin Kelly are running for the Senate. Then you have longtime incumbents like Jan Schakowsky, Danny Davis leaving, and Chuy Garcia as well, though his primary is not competitive because he did the little switcheroo with the last.
But that general election could get that's going to get interesting with some independent candidates.
Steve Daines.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm leaving. Oh, no,
actually, I think
except one person who filed.
No, I think Steve Daines pulled a Chuy is what he did.
You're right.
He
I
pulled
think
the
he
Chewy
did.
Garcia.
Yeah, I think we got to
Because
give
Chewy is
Garcia
the
credit here.
Chewy gets it first. Yeah.
Credit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot going on here. All these primaries are all very crowded. The big storyline I'm watching is the amount of money that these outside groups have spent in all of the House races.
Yeah.
AIPAC and their affiliated groups alone have spent over 21 million at this point. Crypto and AI have also spent several million each. And when you have like 15 candidates in a primary, this money matters quite a bit, even on the expensive airwaves.
And unlike Texas,
while we
no
have you
runoffs,
here, Aaron,
just the plurality.
Aaron, while we have you here, we've got a few of these ads. You tell us which one of the three would you like to see? We've got a Fair Shake ad on LaShawn Ford. We've got Kat Abu Ghazala. I think I've worked on that.
I think that was pretty close,
Thank
Chuck.
you very much. Her ad mocking the attacks against her, or we've got a Fair Shake ad on Robert Peters in Illinois, too. Tell us which one you'd like to see.
Let's do the first Fair Shake ad.
All right.
That one's probably
Lauren?
a little bit more impactful.
Let's do the first Fair Shake ad there on SOT 1 there.
Chicago deserves a leader we can trust in Congress, not LaShawn Ford. Ford was indicted by President Obama's Justice Department on 17 counts. 17. The verdict? Ford convicted of tax fraud. Obama's DOJ said Ford fraudulently used a $500,000 business loan on a car, debt, and gambling. LaShawn Ford. Corruption, fraud, self-dealing. Not who we need in Congress. Fair Shake is responsible for the content of this ad.
I mean, that's a good ad.
What?
Yeah, but
It is,
what
yeah,
Fair Shake
and-
didn't mention is that he voted against crypto legislation. In
I was
Illinois.
just gonna say,
Really
where's the
wild.
crypto? Yeah. So they're not advertising on the issue they care about, Aaron?
No. None of these groups advertise on the issues they care about, as we all know. But I mean, Fair Shake is particularly invested in these races because there was this crypto regulation bill that was signed into law by Pritzker. And so you had pretty much all of the Democrats in the state legislature who are now running for Congress supported it. And so that's why LaShawn Ford, who I think, started out this race as the front runner, he's backed by Danny Davis, the outgoing incumbent,
Right,
have a lot of the institutional support.
Aaron, explain to people where this district is.
Yeah,
exactly.
so this is like the inner loop of Chicago, goes into the west side of the city. It's all within Cook County.
Is this the only district now that is entirely within Cook?
I don't know. That's a great
Based
because
on
of
the
way they
gerrymander, the
redrew
Democratic
that.
gerrymander,
Yes.
almost all of
The
them
Illinois
lined a little
Democratic
outside of
gerrymander
honestly.
is
This might be the
unreal.
Oh yeah, you wait till you see Virginia's when it comes
Virginia.
into
Oh,
effect.
yeah. Well, Virginia's here.
Skelly
Yeah.
is doing a whole extra pod on that. He's just doing Virginia.
Virginia
The
wants
lobster.
to make Cook County look like they're the beacons of fairness and
really
democratic
trying to-
politics.
So go,
Oh,
LaShawn Ford. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah. So this probably started out as LaShawn Ford's race to lose. But Fair Shake has now come and spent about $2.5 million against him and really knocked him off. And then you've had AIPAC, who has spent quite a bit of money for Melissa Conyers-Ervin, the Chicago City Treasurer. She's also backed by the teachers unions. So, she came in with a lot of her own political clout, but had a heavy boost from AIPAC. And so I think at this point, I would give the edge to Conyers-Ervin, to be honest. I think Ford could still pull it out, but because Fair Shake has hammered him with these ads, he's definitely in a worse spot than he was a couple of months ago.
And AIPAC in for, to your point, at least according to the New York Times, $5 million for her. I mean, it is a stunning. Now I know it's the Chicago media market, but like Chuck was talking about this before you came on air, just about like crypto and AI and AIPAC in the Senate race, but also in these other races. I actually think it may be more impactful in some of these House races. $5 million in a House race is
Absolutely.
giant sum, even in Chicago.
That'd
Absolutely.
be like spending $50 million in a state.
Totally. I always tell people, if you're rich and you want to have real impact, donate to state legislative races and House races, because $1 million there goes a lot further than $1 million in a statewide where it's a trickle.
Yeah, and they're all much less defined candidates. They all started out with very little name ID, and so it's very easy to come in early with a lot of money and define your opponent. And that's what all these groups have done to a lot of success. I mean, the one major exception I would say is the 9th district, which I'm sure y'all have a lot of thoughts on. That one has gotten the most national media attention, but it's the one race where AIPAC's preferred candidate is probably not going to come out on top.
Yeah, and
That's been a mess.
Laura
They attacked
Fine,
the wrong. They attacked
Laura
the wrong
Fine is
candidate,
who
right?
they want, right, Skelly?
They want her.
Correct.
She's state
Yeah.
senator, and then you've got Kat Abu Ghazala. I'm gonna say
Nice.
it right.
Beautiful
Or try.
pronunciation.
I made a
He's been
pronunciation
doing that for
guide
hours
a
in the
couple-
mirrors,
a couple
Chuck.
candidates. Yeah, Abu Ghazali. And then Daniel Biss, who is probably the front runner, but did have this revelation that came out just before the vote.
Boy, your
that
classic
he-
11th hour.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
I guess you call it a St. Patty's Day surprise, right?
He
Seriously.
copped to it. He said, you know, I think he called ill-advised or
Inappropriate
relationship with
or
somebody.
ill-advised?
It was
Yeah,
inappropriate.
that's what it was.
When he was an instructor at the University of Chicago with a college student, and the woman now here years later came out with this just before the election. I have no idea if it's going to matter, but it is true that a lot of the vote is going to be an election day vote in Chicago.
Yeah.
A pretty big chunk. It's hard to say how much it matters because I don't know how much actual local news coverage it has gotten. I mean, obviously it's spread all over my Twitter and Blue Sky feeds, but it's hard to tell how much of those folks are actually voting in the primary.
many
How many of them are
into
Illinois
it?
voters in the ninth
You know, and
district?
what we're learning
Yeah.
in these sort of mega markets where you've had major news organizations cut back on the coverage of local, it isn't
Yes.
clear how people get their information about local campaigns.
It is
and-
not clear at all.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
something I've noticed. I mean, even talking to a lot of the campaigns, they're frustrated. If you're not in Illinois 9, it's been difficult to get any coverage of your race because even like the larger publications, the Tribune, they just don't have like the bandwidth to cover these races in the way that they used to. And so the 9th district has gotten a disproportionate.
You're being very
amount
generous. They don't have
of
the bandwidth.
coverage.
No. They've chosen not to have the bandwidth.
Olden Capital has chosen not to spend
that
money.
is
I mean,
fair.
it's just
That
the
They
is
reality.
have the nobody told them
That's
they
like-
didn't.
That's like
have
when
to cover
CNN was like, you don't work anymore. I was like, it's not that you don't have the money to pay me. You just don't want to pay me anymore. It's a totally different thing.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
a reservation.
absolutely.
It's like the car
Absolutely.
reservation for Jerry
Yeah.
Seinfeld. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Aaron, I was curious. Do you have any thoughts on the Jesse Jackson comeback? Jesse Jackson Jr.
You know, I think he has. I have a hard time forecasting that race. To be honest,
That one
There's
seems
been very
hard,
little
like the
polling.
hardest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one is tough. I think he has a real shot. It's either going to be him or Donna Miller, who's a Cook County commissioner who has also benefited from a couple $1 million in APAC spending. But obviously Jesse Jackson Jr., you know, started out with quite a bit, like pretty much universal name ID. It was basically 50% positive, 50% negative. He's not going to move that much. It's a question of whether or not Miller can get enough support among the, like, I think it's
All right.
maybe 12
Let's
people in
dork
that
out
field.
here. So we're gonna have, if Jesse Jr. wins, gets back to Congress, then we're gonna have brothers serving together, right?
Yeah.
That's
Jonathan
correct.
and his next door in the first district.
Right.
is
I also
Jonathan
found out
Jackson.
his ex-wife is apparently running for delegate of DC.
Well, there you
Did
go.
you guys know that?
No. What's her name?
Her name is.
Sorry
I
to put
should
you
pull
on the
this
spot.
up.
Not that
No,
you should not be required to know the DC delegate races. I just
Well, I do live here.
Look, Eleanor Holmes Norton retiring whether she wanted to or not, apparently.
88 years young.
Yeah.
But I was just gonna say, if they join, the last pair of siblings that served together in Congress, is it the Sanchez sisters?
Yeah, Loretta and Linda.
Or is it the Florida brothers? Diaz Balart.
The
Oh,
Diaz-Balarts?
Did they serve together?
I don't know who was-
Yeah, they did serve
only
together.
did
Mario
serve
and
together.
Lincoln.
I don't
know
Yeah,
who
they
was
were.
recently.
They were in neighboring districts.
It's
And then
one
there's
of
the
the
guy.
sisters.
There's a guy
Between
in
the two.
Texas. There's a guy in Texas who's being probably going to be replaced by his brother,
By his twin
Latrell, right?
He's a twin
Yeah.
brother.
His
It's not
twin.
just a brother.
No.
Twin brother.
Yeah, fascinating.
And we have the Vinmans, right? You have,
The
That's
Vinmans.
right.
Yeah.
The Vinmans, one in Congress, one running
Right.
for Senate.
One trying
And
to
I
get the
don't-
Senate.
yeah, and of course, famously, we have the Levins of Michigan.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
House and Senate.
House and Senate. Yeah.
The Nels situation is really hilarious because his identical twin brother has literally.
Oh, that's
followed
right.
in
It's
his
not
footsteps.
Latrell. It's Troy Nels. That's right. Sorry.
Yeah, Latrell also has a very famous twin brother.
That's right. That's why I was thinking of it, but it's Troy Nels. That's right.
Yeah.
And his
A lot of
brother's
twins.
name is like Terry or something. It's like
It's
super
Trevor.
close.
It's Trevor.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know
Come
how many
on,
people are
man.
going to know they have a new member of Congress in that
They
district.
won't even know it. Yeah.
They
T
won't notice.
Nels.
He also, they look this identical.
Yeah.
So I do
Amazing.
believe it was the Sanchez sisters.
They were the last.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's what I thought,
because Lincoln
left a
Diaz
long-
Balart
about
left
a
a little bit
decade
earlier
ago.
than
That's
that.
why
a
I
little
didn't
bit
know if
earlier
they had
than that.
overlapped. That's
Yeah,
because I
no,
knew
no,
I
they
knew he had
did.
been there
Actually, it was
first.
a funny situation where the Lincoln was in the redder seat and he retired, and so
then
Mario
Mario-
jumped
He
and
moved to the
let
district.
run
Yes,
in his brother's
yes.
seat instead of in his
No,
own.
Mario was in theory my
Oh, that's funny.
congressman for a while, or at least where I lived.
Where you grew
and
up.
Then,
Yeah.
and instead that's where Carlos Corbello replaced Mario,
Yes.
and then lost that seat. And then I think now it's, well, they've redistricted it so much now.
But yeah.
It's not even the same district.
All right, Aaron, you rock.
Wonderful
Thank
you.
preview. Appreciate it.
Yes,
We
thank
appreciate you. Have a good night.
Yeah,
Cook,
you
cook,
too.
cook.
Cook Political Report
On Cook
with
County.
Amy Walter.
Yeah, it's a lot of cooks in the kitchen.
I see what you did there.
Thank you very much.
I have a question, Jeffrey, very quickly. Is there, so all three of these people are from the Chicago, the broad, let's use Tom Bowen's north of I-80, right? They're
they
all
call
from
it-
Cook
it's
County.
Chicagoland.
It's Chicagoland,
Chicagoland,
Chris.
right.
Yeah, it's called Chicagoland. Yeah.
Can you explain, because in this amazing primer that I got from this great group called Decision Desk HQ, there's a good breakdown of, and by the way, polls have closed, right? I just want to announce that. Polls have closed in Illinois. We don't have much yet, but can you break down Krishnamurti base versus Stratton base versus, to the extent Robin Kelly's base, I assume, is her congressional district, but can you break down, like, where should you pay attention if they're all from the same county where 80% of the vote is coming from? Like, where do people look? And Lauren, maybe if you want, let me bring up the Illinois Democratic race on my screen. Go ahead, Jeffrey. I'm just going to bring up the map.
Yeah, certainly.
Go ahead.
So essentially, about 80% roughly, give or take, of the primary vote is going to be from the counties in and around Chicago. So Cook, and then the ones around it like DuPage, Will, Lake, a little farther afield, some of the more exurban counties like McHenry. So you're going to get like most of the vote from those places. Now, I think as Tom Bowen was pointing out, Stratton, like, look, obviously, Cook County is where you have the largest population of Black voters, voters of color in general, compared to the suburbs, which tend to be a little wider, although they are increasingly diverse in terms of race and ethnicity. So I think if you're thinking about, all right, where are things going to go in this race, I would expect the map at the end of the night to look something like, if Stratton has a chance of winning, she's leading in Cook County.
Which is, I've got it highlighted here.
Which is that's all Cook. Chicago is within Cook.
But then you go over here and we start getting
half
to
the
where
vote
Tom
will be
Bowen
from Cook,
Yeah.
Cook County suburbs, and half from the city of Chicago, give or take. But at the end of the day, she needs to be probably winning that to have a chance of winning in this election. Because I assume that Krishnamurti is going to lead most everywhere else outside of a handful of pockets. Like, for instance, I do see that we have gotten a few votes in from St. Clair County down in the southwestern part of the state. Now, that's interesting because that is where East St. Louis is, which has a sizable Black population. And not coincidentally, Stratton is actually leading there. So, that's a place where, pop up a few spots around the state where she might be competitive. And I think Tom Bowen also mentioned, white progressives might be an interesting part of that. Now, that's going to be more of a thing focused in some of the suburban counties and in Cook County proper, where it's harder to see with that precinct map.
Yeah.
Yes. But I think, a lot of this map is likely to be shaded blue based on how we did the color assignment.
Krishnamurti is blue, Stratton is green, and Kelly is purple. Yeah.
And it's unlikely that you'll see Kelly leading anywhere, although I guess it is possible that something like one of the counties that is actually in her district, which is very gerrymandered. So it runs from basically parts of Southside Chicago all the way down to like Vermilion County, which is well south of Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe she randomly wins a place like Kankakee County or Iroquois County.
I got them right here.
Yep. Yeah. But besides that, I wouldn't expect to see the purple anywhere else on the map. So those are cool. That's sort of what I'm looking for.
And let's bring in, and because she's been waiting, Grace Panetta of the wonderful 19th News, awesome site that I love. Hi, Grace.
Hi, Chris. How's it going?
We're good, I think. It's early days, so we're doing fine. I'm fascinated by this, just in what the 19th covers. Can you talk about? Chicago, Illinois having the possibility of a female governor. in Stratton. I mean, excuse me, a female senator. We have Tammy Duckworth already. How much of kind of that has drawn coverage? Do you know, I mean, or is it just like, oh, she's JB Pritzker's person? I feel like that's what I hear more of.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, first, for some table setting, there have been very, very few Black women elected to the U.S. Senate, period. Only about half a dozen. There are currently 2 in there right now. Senator Angela Alsobrooks from Maryland, Lisa Blunt Rochester from Delaware. So a lot of groups focused on electing Black members of Congress, and Black women especially have been very, very interested in this race. But you've seen it break down along some interesting lines. As you mentioned, Governor Pritzker has come in with a lot of support and funding to support Juliana Stratton. And at the same time, the Congressional Black Caucus has been behind Robin Kelly, and that's caused some kind of tensions. You have members of the CBC even calling out Pritzker for supporting Stratton over Kelly. And I think a lot of groups, frankly, are worried about their, the vote being split between Juliana Stratton and Robin Kelly and missing out on a chance to elect a Black woman to the Senate.
It is remarkable because I don't see, the last time we did this was 2 weeks ago, and you had Tallarico, you had Crockett, you had Cornyn, you had Pax. I'm thinking the other side. You had Cornyn, you had Pax, and you had Wesley Hunt. And it was like Wesley Hunt was the Robin Kelly figure in that.
Yeah.
He wasn't probably going to win. Nobody thought he was going to win. Yeah. But also, if he got 10, 11, 12%, what did he wind up getting, Jeffrey?
Wait, sorry. I got distracted.
He got about 14
I got distracted
15.
looking at the results where Stratton is narrowly ahead in McLean County, which is where Bloomington, Illinois is, by the way. That's the second place we've got results. So another more
where Chuck Todd's mother was born.
Oh, no way.
Hunt ran well enough to kind of spoil it. Yeah. And I feel like I wonder if Robin Kelly, if we wind up with a Krishnamurthy win, you look back and you add Stratton and Kelly up and you think, well, they, what? Well, it's amazing they didn't narrow that primary. I mean, maybe not. It's not. Well, amazing, Grace, are you surprised?
In fact, Grace, was there an attempt? Did somebody try to, between Stratton and Kelly, was there any attempt to saying, hey, you guys are going to essentially divide the pie to elect Krishnamurthy?
Well, I think in a lot of cases with Illinois politics, there are just so many dynamics, a lot of interpersonal, inter-party, factional dynamics, one of which is that Robin Kelly was the former chair of the Illinois Democratic Party and did not have a great relationship with Pritzker in his camp when she was in that role and is no longer in that role. So I feel like that is also maybe partially leading to some of the dynamics here.
It's all local politics, man.
But I don't mean to be like a heavy here, but it's like what I want to say to the Congresswoman is, look, you're on the wrong side of the governor, and the governor runs the state party. And if you don't like it, go run for governor, right?
Right, always.
It seems like she's trying to win a fight that was unwinnable.
Yeah, it's very hard to see her path to victory. And that was always the case. I think coming into this race, Krishnamurthy has been preparing to run for this Senate seat for years and years and years, built up this massive war chest. And then with Stratton having Pritzker's support, of course, the other dynamic is that JB Pritzker is a potentially rumored 2028 presidential candidate. And it obviously would be a big show of force and clout and heft for him to back a winning candidate in this Senate primary. And I think a lot of the groups focused on electing Black members of Congress and focused on Black women are going to be watching that as well.
Mm. Can you talk a little bit about Krishnamurthy? Because we one of the things I'm fascinated by is like that guy has so, to your point, he's literally been, it appears as though he's been stockpiling money for exactly this race from the second he got into Congress. Can you just talk about sort of the spending in the race? Because we talked a little bit, just to give you context, we talked a little bit about outside and, APAC, but also AI and crypto. And,
this feels like the campaign. I think what we're saying is that this feels like the campaign, the tipping point of like, oh my God, it's the outside groups that run campaigns completely now. Candidates are just props.
Yeah, I think that dynamic is especially pronounced in a place like an Illinois Democratic primary, where the stakes are so high. If you think about either whoever wins the Senate primary and whoever wins the primaries for these 4 House seats, open House seats in the Chicago area, those people could conceivably be in Congress they could have lifetime seats basically for years and years and years. And so I think there's so much at stake for a lot of these industry outside groups, and you definitely see that there. It's also another dynamic that's been kind of interesting to watch is one of the smaller players that hasn't gotten a lot of attention is the Impact Fund, which supports Indian American candidates for office, is back in Krishnamurti, but has been running not only anti-Stratton, but pro Robin Kelly ads, seemingly in an attempt to divide Black voters, between Stratton and Kelly. So there have been just so many interesting tactics and dynamics and ways that these groups, how they see the electorate and the dynamics that's sort of coming through in who they're attacking in what districts. And that's, an interesting one. And, we'll see if that strategy works out.
I'm always fascinated by the people who was the senator? Was it, it was Richard Shelby. Do you remember, Chuck? He would literally, from Alabama, he would be sitting on like $30 million cash on hand. And it was like, dude, you're a Republican senator in Alabama. You're going to be good.
Yeah.
But Krishnamurti, I mean,
he was also chairman of the appropriate.
I know he was. It was not hard to raise money.
So it is. But Krishnamurti, it's interesting about him, right? He has been. It was so clear he was not stopping at Congress the second he got there. Right?
Yeah.
He was just right. He was ready to go. He, jumped at the chance to be co-chair of that China committee, the special committee with Mike Gallagher. And frankly, I think allowed himself to elevate himself a little bit in the DC sphere a bit. And I certainly think it helped him financially on that front. But, I imagine if he wins, he's not going to just be satisfied being a backbencher U.S. senator. I think he's immediately going to fashion himself like an Adam Schiff and go, okay, hey, I'm a money guy. And I came in here. I beat the billionaire governor. I beat all these outside groups.
You're from a big state, big Democratic state, big donor state.
I have a feeling he is going to attempt to consolidate and wield power here in a way that looks very familiar to old school politicians.
Can I very quickly share something? Gregory Royal Pratt, great political reporter at the Chicago Tribune. This is he says, at Rajna Krishnamurthy's election night party, in case you're wondering, the Senate candidate has spent more than $20 million in succeeding Dick Durbin, but the campaign party is cash bar, and he tweets the picture at the Westin. So domestic beer, $15.34. Premium beer, $18.03. You want a wine or
this is a baseball game.
It's
what?
$21.87 for a glass of wine.
It's worse than the airport.
I hope that's a generous pour. $21.87. It's why is it
I bet you it's an open bar. I bet you it's an open bar with fair shake.
Exactly. And they're $195 million cash on hand. Incredible. Anyway, thank you, Grace.
Thank you so much for having me.
By the way,
always.
I just want to promote, and I do this every time, but my friend Terry Rupar is at 19th News as well. Used to work with me at the Washington Post.
She's amazing.
Grace's boss. She's what 19th News is doing. Emily Ramshaw, Grace, Terry. Go check it out. Is it the19th.com?
It's 19thnews.org.
I have it bookmarked. So and then 19, the numbers, thnews.com.
Yeah, the .org.
I'm an idiot. .org.
You really are. Yeah.
I have it bookmarked. I just click it on my bookmark.
I love that.
Bar.
I have a bookmark. Just mash your phone.
Exactly.
Mash your phone.
Keypad.
It's amazing. You'll get it. Yeah.
Thank you, Grace.
Oh, thank you both so much.
Thank you, Grace.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Hey, Skelly, what do we make of the fact that Stratton and Krishnamurthy seem to be dead even in the very early drop? I assume the early drop is the small handful of absentee that we get in Illinois. Anything to there for you?
That should mostly be early vote. And
sorry, I'm on. There's the statewide.
Yeah. So both of those. It's interesting because I was talking about how Krishnamurthy should probably be leading in most counties downstate.
That's what we would expect, I think, because we assume he had the
national spending money.
And naturally, the first two that came in have Stratton nearly ahead, trying to make me look dumb. But again, both of those are counties with more sizable communities that also do have at least, I mean, particularly in the case of St. Clair, but also Bloomington, which is in McLean County, which is the other one that's reported some. There are sizable a sizable number of black voters in those counties.
That's
and
by the way, Bloomington, home of State Farm Insurance.
Yeah, and
it's headquarters. It's world headquarters.
That's two facts about Bloomington, Illinois. I didn't know, Chuck.
Right. Well,
your
I
mom
know a
being
lot.
born there.
I was going to say you got a few more in there.
One of the great
Bloomington, Illinois facts.
One of the great men's clothing stores was called Marvin's. Oh, that was a family clothing store in my family's business. No, and the great local paper, who the editor recently of the Bloomington Pantograph,
great
is
name.
That is a great name.
It's a great name. He's still cooking, man. He's still working hard, and they actually still are cranking out local news.
I was just in Charlottesville. This is a Skelly shout out, but the newspaper is not what it once was, but the Charlottesville newspaper is also very well named.
The Daily Progress.
The Daily Progress.
Yeah. That's what a college town newspaper should be called.
Yeah. Jeffrey, you want to bring in your former colleague?
Yes. I believe we're bringing on Kaylee Rogers, who
we are.
Yes, there's Kaylee. Hey, Kaylee.
Hello.
Kaylee was a colleague of mine at the now defunct 538.
R.I.P.
And yes, R.I.P.
Can't find it on the internet for inexplicable reasons. That Skelly probably has a non-compete or some kind of NDA. Can't badmouth.
I don't.
But I can badmouth.
I can't. Yeah, I don't. I don't. Fortunately.
What the hell? Just put it online. It had great data.
We don't. We've.
You know how Disney gets.
It's
Disney
so
still own
ridiculous.
this? Is that the issue?
It already exists.
Yeah.
There's a fair amount archived. Through
Is it at like a secret, or is it at like a URL I can find, Kaylee?
Like archive.org has a fair amount.
Okay.
And honestly, if there's something you're looking for, a former staffer probably
has
it. We still are all in contact and, share as
and
needed.
We're constantly joking about the fact that things have been taken down. Joking / like, oh my God. Anyway,
yes. Laugh to keep from crying. I will just note, Jeffrey, as you go, I'm just going to highlight, we have some vote in, very little, but some vote in from Kane County, like a little bit from some, and a few from these downstates, which to your point, Krishnamurthy is ahead. Now it's like 88 votes. So people take a chill pill, but like just noting that.
And again, a large majority of Illinois voters are going to be election day voters.
I also think it's possible that there's been an initial data entry error in Kane that's going to get fixed because I don't think, I would just be surprised if Robin Kelly is winning Kane. That would be really notable.
Because that's not Kane. Her congressional district, right? Her congressional district is down.
Is south.
Here.
Is south Cook and down in there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
anyway.
In fact, and would you look at that? That Stratton is leading in Kane, which is interesting. That's fascinating. I still think they're working through that. Anyway, data entry errors. Kaylee, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. I was curious sort of what you're watching tonight in Illinois.
Let me pull up the full map here, Kaylee. Go ahead.
The Senate race is the top ticket, but I, from like day one, have been really fascinated by the 9th district. I got to interview Kat Abou-Ghazaleh for a piece I did with New York
nailed the pronunciation. She didn't even pause.
Well, I've her a couple times.
No big deal. No big deal.
But and I just think she's a really interesting character in this race. That race in general is just fascinating and one of the ones where it could go either way. I think
I'm going to do a little producing here, if you don't mind, Kaylee. We got one of Kat's funny ads.
Kat A's funny ads.
Yeah, let's play one here and let's talk about her on the other side.
Kat Abou-Ghazaleh is the kind of radical Democrat Fox News warned you about. Kat believes you deserve universal health care, groceries, and housing. Where does she think we are? The richest country on earth? Kat isn't a millionaire. She doesn't take PAC money. She can't even afford health insurance herself. How can she possibly relate to normal, hardworking corporations like you and me? And it gets worse. As a journalist, Kat's reporting helped lead to Tucker Carlson's departure from Fox News. Is that who you want fighting extremists in Washington? Kat claims the Democratic Party should not bow down to Trump or his billionaire friends. Does she think strongly worded letters count as bowing? Kat Abou-Ghazaleh represents a new generation of progressive Democrats working to redefine the party's future, and she plans to do it with her ferocious attack cat by her side. Is this who you want representing us?
I'm Kat Abou-Ghazaleh, and I approve this message.
The only thing missing was the childless cat lady call out. But my word, now that we've got that ad out of the way, yes, she's one of the great characters of this campaign season.
Absolutely. And, I remember seeing her, when she initially launched her campaign, and even at that time, like the thinking wasn't even necessarily, because at that time, she was challenging.
Jan Schakowsky was still technically running.
Schakowsky hadn't stepped down yet.
Yeah.
So she was sort of doing it as a statement. She wanted to use some of the funds she was hoping to raise to, help the community, stuff like that. And then suddenly it's an open primary, and she's been in it the longest, and is doing something that people are paying attention to, and she's actually a contender in the end, which was really an interesting turn. And then obviously there's been all the APAC spending and fiddling around in this race. And so it's I really am curious to see which way it's going to go, what voters are really keen on.
I love the tone of that ad. It's so hard to break through. It's so hard to break through on any messaging anymore because of the gazillions of dollars, the attention economy, all those things. That, that's one of those you're like, well, that stuck. Let's see how it stuck, but it stuck.
I mentioned this just because the piece that I worked on was talking to younger Democrats. I think our cutoff was like 41 because that's as young.
That's a young primary voter. That qualifies.
But it was interesting because in talking to a lot of these younger Democrats, like you'd think like, oh, they're young, they're savvy, they're good with the internet, whatever, social media, but they aren't all. That's sort of a cliche. But Kat actually is, like, she just, the kind of career she's had and the work that she's done, she's very comfortable talking to media. Like, she gives colorful quotes, but she means it and is not afraid of how it looks in print. Whereas sometimes when you're talking to people who haven't been in politics for as long, they give a certain quote and you're like, I don't know if you realize how that's going to look. So that was really interesting. But, she doesn't have any political background. She doesn't have any experience.
Why'd she jump in?
I was going to say, tell people who don't know about her. I mean, this is a very young candidate with no real background. Like, tell people who don't know about her, like because she's drawn a massive amount of national attention, probably 60-40, good, bad, maybe, I don't know, maybe more good, but tell people about her. And to Chuck's point, why did she run?
Her background was working for Media Matters for America, which is like a watchdog, left-wing watchdog group. And her job was like tracking Fox News and Tucker Carlson. And so with that, she started to build her own online presence on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. And so coming into the race, she already had this big social media following, which was really her big strength. So not only like the skills with that, but already having an audience built in. But she comes from Texas. She's actually from like a Republican dynasty in Texas, and was like a Reagan Republican, like led the like young Republican group at her high school, and was sort of.
Which is not that long ago. She's 26.
Yeah. But as she, got a little older, was sort of like radicalized to the left, and now is pretty far left wing. But she's been criticized for being a bit of a carpetbagger. She's new to the Chicago area, new to the state, not having any kind of political experience to speak of. She got into some, I don't know if you call it hot water. People were critical of her foreign policy page on her platform. And there was a lot of sort of back and forth about what she really stood for. I believe she kind of ended up taking a few things down, trying to appease people. So it's a big leap for somebody without any experience. And then she's going up against Mayor Biss, who's, by all accounts, a very popular mayor, very obviously has the name recognition and the political chops to back it up. So it's interesting that she's been able to hold her own.
Can you just explain to folks, I don't want to keep you too long, but can you explain to folks, for people who are wondering why they are looking at this very weird, this is the district.
Illinois,
can you explain to people? So
in the moment, and because again, Virginia's going to say, hold my beer when we get the new congressional map. But Illinois is probably one of the most gerrymandered states in the country.
Yeah.
I mean,
it gives North Carolina a run for its money.
Yes.
True. Look, anywhere where the legislature is one party dominant, you get crazy congressional districts like this. North Carolina and Illinois are two of those states.
So it's just for people. It's Cook here, which is the bulk of the vote, but then you also have Lake, and there's also just a little of McHenry. I mean, this is the district that Jen Schakowsky ran and won in, right, Kelly? Is that?
Yes, yeah, and like held for. Well, I guess the district has changed the exact drawing of it.
It's always had Northwestern in it, right? It's always had Evanston, right?
Yeah, I believe it's always been around Evanston, so that's been consistent. So, but yeah, that was her district, and I think she just was ready to retire. It wasn't a.
I don't know if she was ready. I think she got a little gentle nudge. I don't want to say it was a push, but there was some nudging. There was some nudging to anybody over a certain
noticed
age.
This,
yeah,
been some nudging.
But Kat was in the race when Jan Schakowsky was in the race. I mean, that's the other thing. Like, that's not that she got run out by this kind of progressive, but like and like, I mean, go ahead.
Well, I mean, Kat really wouldn't have stood a chance, I don't think,
right.
Had Jan stayed in the race. So again, like I don't want to. I think she, you run hoping to win. That's the goal. But I think maybe she got more than she bargained for once it became an open primary. And
totally,
it was really a real race.
You can't drop out. You think you're charging at a windmill, and then the windmill retires. You can't just drop out.
Exactly.
Kaylee, let me get you out of here on this. I mean, we're gonna, what are we gonna learn about that? What are you hoping to learn about the direction of the Democratic Party tonight, or will you learn anything about the direction?
I mean, this is going to be the question throughout the primaries, right? Because depending on the state, depending on the race, we're seeing so many different strategies. We're seeing a lot with the Democrats, a lot of really crowded primaries, like 10, 11, 12 people running.
That's usually a sign of a bunch of people think it's a good year to be on the ballot.
And I'm
scrolling.
Usually, there's a million candidates in this race. Like, I mean, most of these people are going to get a few more votes than Chuck and I, but there are a lot of people in the race, to your point.
Yeah. And I mean, these are in really strong Democratic seats where the primary is essentially the election. But, that I think that's going to tell us some interesting things about what voters, primary Democratic voters are really hoping the future of the party looks like. Is that a big change? Is it more mainstream, reliable politicians? Is it far left, more in the middle? We're going to get a mix, I'm sure, obviously, depending on the district. But I'm really curious if people are willing to take a chance on some of these, political unknowns, the Graham Plattners of the world. What's going to happen?
Totally. All right.
No, I mean, I do get a sense that this is it probably depends what type of district, because I think you have some people that want fighting, right? They want somebody that'll punch them in the nose. Will you punch the bully in the nose? And others are like, can you, as a friend of mine said, I just don't want any more bomb throwers. You know what I mean? And that's two different mindsets.
Yeah, two different voters for sure.
Yeah.
All right, you rock. Thank you for telling me that I can bother Skelly for any and all information I need on old 538 stuff.
I will say the 538 team runs deep. We are all still very close in contact and
love it,
sharing resources and working on things together.
It's such a dumb move by them, but that's neither here nor there. Thank you.
I love it.
I'm really missing it. Yeah, at this time of year.
Take care. Yeah.
So much, guys.
All right.
That clubby feel is exactly how I feel about my hotliners. And
totally. Yeah.
You know what that means? I believe we've got a hotliner coming up pretty soon. The editor-in-chief,
is Kirkpatrick Beto in? Is he here?
I believe
there he is.
What's up, everybody?
He is he is here. Mr. Beto, how are you, sir?
I didn't know it was Kirkpatrick. I just
on St. Patrick's Day, when I'm in trouble with the government, it's Kirkpatrick.
Kirkpatrick, yeah, totally.
You're
in trouble with the government a lot, so that's
Give us a quick origin story. I mean, are you a line of Kirkpatricks? Are you named after a grandfather, a father?
I'm actually named after a college professor that taught my dad, my aunt, my uncle, my grandma, and my grandpa, Forrest H. Kirkpatrick, over at Bethany College in West Virginia.
I love that.
Oh, cool.
Even better. I'm glad I asked. All the better that I asked that question. A little tongue in cheek, but not at all. I'm glad.
It was either going to be Forrest or Kirkpatrick, and I was a cross country runner in college, so I was real happy it was Kirkpatrick and not Forrest.
Run, Forrest, run. Yeah,
exactly.
That'd have been a lot of fun.
Totally. My gosh.
Well, we were just talking when you might have overheard a little bit. Just we probably don't expect this is going to be another data point on what do Democrats want, right? What kind of what kind of representative do they want in the Trump era? Do they want somebody who will fight fire with fire? Do they want somebody who will bring the peace? And do they want to turn the page? What is it that they want? And it looks like no matter what, we're going to kind of get a muddled message out of Illinois tonight.
I think we will policy-wise, especially with the amount of outside money coming in, like Kaylee talked about, between the crypto, AI, APAT getting involved here. But I think it says more about who's not running right now than who is running. In Illinois, you had a trio of octogenarians who decided to step away instead of running for re-election between Danny Davis, Jan Schakowsky, and Dick Durbin here. You see,
let's not forget Chewy Garcia.
Chewy Garcia, I think he's like 79, so I don't want to put him in.
I was going to say he sneaks in under the not 80, barely.
If you're collecting Social Security, we're putting you on the list.
That's absolutely fair. And we've been tracking this at Hotline, this old gerontocracy that's still running here in the Democratic Party. There's 55 members, 70 or above, who are in office right now. And not a whole lot of them have said that they're going to step away. But in Illinois, we got 3 of them. So if nothing else, you're going to see a new leadership class coming in here. I mean, the oldest folks running in the Senate race right now to replace Dick Durbin, who's been there for years, I think it's Raja Krishnamoorthi is like 50 something or so. So a spring chicken comparatively here. So
guess how old Dick Durbin was when he first won that Senate seat?
How old was he?
51.
We looked this up.
We were looking it up, and he was 51, and that's the same age as Krishnamoorthi. And that
Krishnamoorthi is 52. I literally just looked.
And,
same
and
thing.
Durbin, Durbin was elected, and I think this matters now. You were elected in the other century, right? You were elected in the last century. That
it's not 2010 anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like we are past the quarter pole of the 21st century. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think that's what says to me more about the state of the Democratic Party, especially in Illinois, where all these seats are safe. You guys were talking about it earlier. It's one of the most gerrymandered states in the union here, and that whoever gets in these seats could have them for a very long time. But I just think as you look at someone like Jim Clyburn, who is deciding to run for re-election again in his 80s, while other folks in his leadership class are stepping away, I think it's a really unique situation going on, and it's those older members kind of reading the writing on the wall that it's their time has come.
I mean, I was amazed at the Clyburn thing, but then you know what? It makes sense because he wants to be a player in 28, and that's the way to do it. But I mean, even Eleanor Holmes Norton, who's 88, who is retiring, was was really pushed more than she was kind of encouraged out of the race. I mean, she was in it and in it and in it. Mm-hmm. How many of these, Kirk? I'm fascinated by the whole gerontocracy thing. How many filing deadlines have passed? Like, is there still time? Did you say 55 or 70 or over? Did I get that right?
Yes.
Like, are we going to see, do you expect most of those folks to stay?
So far, yeah. I mean, we still have a lot of filing deadlines coming up here in the next 2 months here. And the way we're tracking this right now is most of these folks are filed with the FEC. And so we assume that they're running for re-election until they say so otherwise. Mm-hmm. But only a small handful of these 55 have said that they're going to walk away here. I think it's only about a little bit less than a dozen or so last time I checked our tracker here. So we have more time for people to choose whether or not they want to fully commit to running for re-election. But if you look down in Georgia, what is that district? The Danny Scott district.
Yes.
He's running for re-election at 80-something right now. There was that picture that Greg Bluestein, the great reporter down at the AJC, had of him filing for re-election in a wheelchair here. And I think that sends a message about the wider Democratic Party right now, who's having these conversations about this older generation clinging to power for years. And it reached the fever pitch with Biden dropping out after that disastrous debate performance.
Right.
Totally. And I mean, and realistically, we have about 12 meaningful filing deadlines left to go, or more than that?
That's what I was wondering. Yeah.
I don't know how many off the top of my head here. I have the calendar somewhere up here, but we do have a good number of them left to go here. A lot of them were in March or even earlier, a little bit earlier this year. The one for Illinois is actually one of the earliest ones in the country. I believe it's all the way back in December of 25 here. So they had to make a decision early.
Right.
But
in Illinois, they did. Yeah.
Yeah, in Illinois. But a lot of these folks like to leave it right to the wire, or in the instance of, Chewy Garcia, like he waited until the last minute to get his chosen successor in, or someone like Steve Daines in Montana who pulled that switcheroo. We could see something like that here as well as these filing deadlines get closer.
Well, and plus we still have, I mean, any day now the Supreme Court could rule on the Voting Rights Act.
Yes.
And if that happens, we know Florida's going to do I mean, they basically have a map ready to go if they get the go light. And who knows if we see that in Louisiana or another state this cycle.
Yeah, the South.
Yeah, we could see Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi. We could see, over a dozen races, over a dozen Democratic members just like lose their seats here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to lose sight of, I think, the race that probably has most people tuning in, which is the race I've got pulled up here. Mm-hmm. Kirk, do you expect? We asked Tom Bowen earlier, another former hotliner, and he said, I probably think Krishnamurthy. Is that your sense?
But he
obviously
wasn't.
close.
Look, in fairness to
Tom, he wasn't like overwhelmingly. Yes,
he wasn't going to bet his money with it. He might have bet your money with it. Right? Exactly he wasn't ready to put his money on the line.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I'm watching also the Kalshi odds in real time here as more and more votes keep coming in. And Stratton's been gaining ever since the more
Stratton's at 73% in Polymarket, and she's sitting at 74 in Kalshi.
Oh,
and
interesting.
We began the night with Krishnamurthy over 66%.
Exactly.
Actually, and I think I can show that. Hold on.
It is.
I think I can show the. Yeah. So there's the odds there.
And
that's Kalshi.
Yeah, you can see where
and here's Polymarket.
Right, where Stratton sort of pulled ahead.
Yeah, that's incredible. The change here. The early votes, the first votes that are encountered, those early votes, mail-in votes here. Well, she was holding her own there. There was concern that Stratton and Robin Kelly would split that all-important black vote from Chicago. But Stratton's holding strong right now, and if she does pull this out, I mean, that's a big feather in the cap for JB Pritzker. We're always looking ahead to the next election here at Hotline. Obviously, we're laser focused on the one in front of us, but JB Pritzker attached his sales to Stratton early, and this is really interesting here.
Look, it's a big deal. I think it's a big deal in the insider world. There's a real split about Pritzker among people I talk to. Some who don't take him seriously at all. Some who do take him very seriously. Right? It's a very hit or miss.
You're so right, Chuck. And you're so right. Look, it's very hot and cold, right? Some people are like Newsom, and then maybe Pritzker and Shapiro, and then there's some people who are like, he's the 10th most likely. Like we don't.
Well, what's interesting with Pritzker,
opinion is so divided.
Right. Like if you're warm to Newsom, you're warm to Pritzker, but if you're warm to Shapiro, you don't like Newsom or Pritzker, right? Like and that's just, and we're just talking in the donor world. But, and then there's the other part, you're like, are the Democrats really going to turn to a billionaire scion?
I know.
Right? Like, is that, in order to run a campaign against billionaires? It's a strange, but then again, right? If you're Pritzker, you say, well, one of the most famous social justice progressive warriors in the Democratic Party's history was a wealthy person by the name of Franklin Roosevelt, right?
I was going to say, Roosevelt and the Kennedys are the two most
he's already talking about his own New Deal here. He's calling for Democrats to have a Project 2029 already. You can definitely see him take that line.
I actually think that's super interesting, Kirk. Yeah, I think that's Chuck and I have talked about this.
Well, and this is the big difference. Some people want to lump Pritzker and Newsom into the same category. Newsom is all style, right? Newsom is also the guy. And in fact, Newsom's also the guy that at the same time is trying to fight the wealth tax in California. You know what Pritzker wouldn't be fighting against? The wealth tax in California. In fact, I would imagine Pritzker might even, what'll be interesting here is that if he does pull this off with Stratton, in the insider community of the Democratic Party and of the donor world, everybody's going to take a second look at Pritzker. It's going
totally agree.
It is going to give him something.
And you're right. Like the average voter in New Hampshire is not going to be
that's not going to matter.
Well, that Juliana Stratton endorsement. But I do think in the donor and the super plugged in world, people like us, I'll be like, oh, that's interesting. Because he clearly, if she gets over the line, Pritzker, to Kirk, to your point, right? I mean, I think let's say she wins. And again, to remind people, this is not Texas. You do not have to get 50% of the vote. If she gets 38, she wins if she's in first. Kirk, what do you make of that? Like, is the biggest storyline national people are focused on tomorrow exactly what Chuck just outlined if Stratton wins, which is Oh man, maybe we underestimated Pritzker.
I think that will be the headline unless Kat Abou-Juzele pulls this out here, which don't ever play that back to me how I just attempted to do that.
You did well.
Terrible. Out of everyone, you've not done badly. We've had almost everyone do it.
You're not the worst.
I'm going to pull that up too while you're talking. Go ahead, Kurt.
No, I think she'll be 1A, 1B here, but I think Pritzker is showing off that he can overcome this, not only the financial gap between Stratton and Krishnamurthy, but also taking on all the outside organizations that bat Krishnamurthy as well. I believe Fairshake, the AI pack, crypto pack, came in pretty heavily for him. For him then to go out there and say, I fought these guys and I won and I want to regulate them, I think that's going to be something you might see up at a union hall somewhere up in Iowa and New Hampshire.
And let's look. This is an NSFW moment here that I'm about to do.
Oh, he's doing it, folks. It's all happening.
But I'm doing it. Look, if Stratton wins, this ad is going to get some credit.
You bet.
For its virality. Take a look at this Stratton ad. It's SOT number 2 there, Mr. Gardner.
Fuck Trump. Vote Juliana.
Fuck Trump. Vote Juliana.
Fuck Trump. Vote Juliana.
They said it, not me. I'm Juliana Stratton, and I'm proud to have lived my whole life on the south side of Chicago. I'm not scared of a wannabe dictator. I'm running for Senate to stand up to Donald Trump. I'll abolish ICE and hold Trump accountable for the crimes he's committed. Just like they said, fuck
Trump.
Fuck Trump.
Fuck Trump.
Vote Juliana.
That's why I approve this message.
Wow.
That will, that will be, if this is, what Skelly doesn't realize here, we've just called it for Stratton, Skelly, since Cal.
Oh, wow. That was
just so you know.
Call.
We were just
I have kidding, but we're in all seriousness. Look, this is a big moment for the prediction markets, for better or for worse, because they've all turned, and they've turned sharply in Stratton's direction.
Chuck. Yeah.
The bettors have already called this.
Look at this, 91% in Kelsey.
I mean, that's Wasserman. I've seen enough territory.
Yeah. And 85% in. What's behind that, Kirk?
What do you make of that, Mr. Skelly?
What's behind that movement? Is that just reactive, or are they seeing real votes?
It's reactive.
I think it's people, pooping their pants here over this. I mean, look at where it started tonight with, Krishnamurthy at 66, 67% or so.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's just completely inverted as more and more votes come in. And James Downs, one of our reporters, is texting me real-time updates on Kalshi, saying how much it's flipping back and forth right now.
Stay away. I know. Don't monitor Kalshi. Can we monitor the actual vote returns, people? I know.
Is there anything in here? And Jeffrey, I think you can see where I'm, this is the Cook in the Collier counties. Is there anything in here that would concern you if you're Krishnamurthy at this point?
I mean, I think he would like to be leading in Cook, but I think we also knew that the only race, if Krishnamurthy was leading in Cook, that this race was not going to be all that interesting.
And he is leading in Cook, by the way, right now, that we just haven't changed the color.
It just hasn't changed yet.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
36.8 to 35.8. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to imagine. See, well, get ready. If that's the case, get ready for another swing toward Krishnamurthy in the
start selling your Stratton.
Sell. Right. There's a lot of people doing stupid bets on Kalshi.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks. You missed the origin of Kirkpatrick Beto's name, which is awesome. We'll fill you in afterward.
But more importantly, not one of us is wearing green tonight. We really suck.
I know.
I was wearing it earlier, but then we don't have green.
Skelly just likes to flaunt that he has that pullover that we don't have. And he's just putting it in our face. Thanks, Kurt.
Contractually,
you're luck.
Our dude. And I think we have.
All right. We need to class up the joint.
Second Cook political report guest of the evening, Tennessee's finest.
Well, more important.
Well,
Furman. She's like, you know what I love about you, Jessica? You have the same attitude I do about my college sports. College basketball, when GW makes it, it trumps Miami.
Yep.
Right. And just like GW, Furman doesn't have much of a football team, so Tennessee football still gets to rule your world, right?
Actually,
in the fall.
Furman is playing Tennessee at for the first game.
Oh, wow.
That's
very nice of them.
You gonna go?
You got to go to that.
Are you going to go? Yeah.
Of course I'm going, and it's going to be really weird for me.
By the way, I will say,
like Clemson colors. You have like a
one of my
hat,
favorite
an orange sweatshirt. You know, like I don't know.
One of my favorite stops that I've done recently was speaking at Dick Riley's institute there at Furman.
It is. I have been there and spoken
Yeah.
there too. If you have not been to Greenville, South Carolina, folks, where Furman is, you need to. My son and I, Jess, I don't think I told you this. My
It's a
son
way
and I
to-
we were
yeah.
down there for soccer. We were in Charlotte, and we went and did the Furman college tour.
Nice.
Dude, it was. I mean, it is a
pretty
lovely.
Greenville.
I would tell people if it is not on your college list, put it on there.
Yeah.
If you haven't been to Greenville,
Tour guide.
Really
I was a campus tour guide too, as well.
I love it there. It's such a great place. I have
The
a friend,
downside is
college
that
friend whose
is
daughter
slow-
is graduating this year from Furman and has loved it.
The downside is just how much you have to hang out with that Clemson crowd, right? No,
I know they're the
We
worst.
didn't see them much. We were in our own little Furman bubble, so yeah, we didn't see them a lot.
So
we can talk Furman all night.
we're
but
talking.
we won't.
No, I
yeah,
know.
we're talking Democratic Senate primary. This is your sweet spot. Your Senate and Gov, but we're talking about both the Gov and maybe a future senator there, and Governor Pritzker and Juliana Stratton here. We're just watching. This is an interesting night for the prediction markets because they've gone out on their own limb, if you will,
Stratton's up to
for Stratton already.
94% now on Kalshi.
So it's
96.
interesting. This is take that, Cook County, right, Skelly?
I
I mean, again, the voting, it says that Krishnamurti is ahead. Like
I know. It's just an interesting.
I actually think that
That's
just
Stratton on my
there.
yeah.
I just looked at the vote total. I don't think it quite, for whatever reason, has just maybe
It's just not added
or
up.
something.
Yeah.
It's just it. To be clear, what I'm seeing on the votes app proper is Stratton's got 39% there, and Krishnamurti 31%, which is probably why things have moved that way. And you've got and Stratton's got like 186,000 votes, and Krishnamurti 146,000. So yeah, just technology, man.
Technology.
We're making it work.
Jess, is there anything in this? I was asking Jeffrey right as you were coming on. Is there anything in this area? I hope you can see it. I think Lauren still got this pulled up. You know, Cook and the Collar counties. You know, I mean, here's Kane here where we have some vote.
Yeah, we need more.
Like,
Suburban
is there
counties.
anything? Is there anything in there that would justify Juliana Stratton at a 94% chance on Kalshi, or is this? I always think that these markets are so reactive to whatever happened 2 seconds ago, but.
I'm not a prediction market fan for some of that reason. That I think it's a little bit more reactive, especially when we have actual vote totals coming in that we can watch and see. So, I think that with where I'm looking at, where someone said to me, if Kelly is between 15 and 20, like that's not great for Stratton, but we just don't have enough of the vote total in.
No, she's at 20, but it's 119,000 in.
Yeah,
right?
it's
Like,
just we just don't have enough data yet, and I think it's fine to say that we don't have enough data yet.
Yep. And also, Jeffrey, can you just do 2 minutes or a minute on sort of how the vote gets reported?
And what's
we
come
talked
in,
about this in our
what's
call, like
same
how
day,
it comes
what's
in
all
and what
this,
we should wait on, and just like a breakdown of that stuff.
Yeah, sure. So Illinois is a state now. We state like Texas, where we just were, March 3rd. Much higher proportion of the vote there, for instance, is cast early or absentee. Illinois is a much smaller amount. It's more than it used to be, but nonetheless, most of the vote will be cast on election day here, which is not the case in a lot of states. So in that sense, that's one of the things that's like, all right, we're getting these initial vote totals and we have a fair amount in, but, for example, we would expect a lot more vote, still to come from like Cook. I do think that knowing that there are, I think potentially a couple 100,000 trailing votes, which is to say votes that will not be counted until that are like were mailed and will be counted and can be accepted for some time after election day, as long as they were mailed by election day. I would think that Stratton would do better among those votes in a
So
Democratic
if we have a
primary.
very tight result tonight, if we're looking at less than 0.5% separating the two or 1 point separating the two, the trickle-in mail-in ballots might actually be decisive.
Yeah, and I think I think for Stratton, if she's ahead, at midnight, that would be a really good sign for her. I mean, it would be it would be a very good sign for her. If she's only narrowly behind, still might be a good sign for her.
Yeah.
A little bit of breaking news. We've called it. It's official. The Howard Bison have advanced. They are in the actual field of 64.
We're Howard people here.
That's right. We are pro Howard.
Yeah.
I'm pro DMV teams.
That's
right.
We're
all my brackets.
Well, look, UMBC. I'm upset that the two of these schools were thrown in together.
Had to play each other. I totally agree.
UMBC deserves an automatic. They should be able to avoid a play-in for beating a 1 seed once. That should give you like permanent immunity from ever having to do the play-in. But the bad news for Team USA in the baseball game is Venezuela's out to a 1-0 lead.
Oh,
and trust me, that crowd, if they're into that game, that is bad news for Team USA. That gets in your head. I know it's not supposed to, but it gets in your head. It's a road game for Team USA.
Jess, can I ask you? We don't want to keep you too long, but we are interested, obviously, in Pritzker and sort of. We were talking to Kirk earlier about if Juliana Stratton does happen to finish first here and win, and for all intents and purposes gets elected to the Senate because Republicans are not going to beat her in the general.
No. This is for all marbles tonight.
Yeah, what is your Pritzker 28 take going into tonight, and then is your Pritzker 2028 take different? And I'm not talking with average voters, but is chucking out major donors and that sort of thing. Is it different if Stratton wins with a major assist from him, financial and otherwise?
Yeah, I mean, helping a Black woman to get to the Senate is nothing to sneeze at, I think, but I don't think that it hurts him. I heard you all talking with Tom earlier, and I'm kind of with him. I'm not sure that. There's so many other things that I think are going to matter more when we look at the 2026 elections. I mean, when you have Josh Shapiro, that we recently just moved that race to solid in Pennsylvania, that he's just going to walk away with that. That's to me if you're making an electability argument, which gets at the heart of this tonight. I mean, this wasn't an electability race like we saw in Texas or anything, but you can elect a fighter here because this is a safe D seat. But if you're talking about the whole country, do you want someone that has won in a swing state and won decisively? And to me, gets at the core of what this Democratic vote is. And I think we're going to see that play out in better primaries like we saw in Texas, certainly playing out in Maine right now. One thing I would say, some of the, we didn't see AIPAC play here in this race like we did in the House races, which my colleague Aaron did an excellent job of overviewing that. But we did see crypto come in here. I think, the hit that they used against Stratton was over a Democratic Lieutenant Governors Association donation. I think we could see that come back in other races, particularly the Minnesota Senate race, because they can tie that with Peggy Flanagan as well. They're not making arguments about crypto because no one cares. The average
right? Yeah.
But it's funny you bring up the Peggy Flanagan race too, because I've linked these two for the same reasons, right? Angie Craig is very similar to a Raja Krishnamurthy.
Yeah.
Right? Much more of an institutionalist.
Suburban.
Suburban.
Totally. Suburban in the big city.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. Just sort of a very similar mindset, similar vibe. And the two lieutenant governors in both states were the more progressive candidates, and I was skeptical that either LG was, usually, the more electable, type of thing. And
attorney general is the better path to becoming a governor.
Usually LG is usually LG is a terrible stepping stone.
Yeah, exactly.
You're always in the shadow.
Nobody knows who the hell they are.
Yeah.
So this would, so anyway, it just, all of this, I think we're seeing just a different Democratic electorate. I really do. And I think that that's something we have to take into account here.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by the Pritzker thing because I will say in the properly rating him, underrating him, overrating him, I'm definitely in the underrating. Like I'm like another billionaire. Like
that's where I'm skeptical is I just like, and sometimes even I joke if he puts a top hat on, you'd say he's the living monopoly man, right?
Yeah,
totally.
He
kind of like evokes,
to make it like funny, like I'm an actual billionaire.
And it's like almost like, does money? Do you have cash flowing out of your vest? Right?
Yeah. Which is the same reason I'm skeptical of like Tom Steyer in California and everything. Like if this is about affordability, which is we see so much of the voters think that, like, can a billionaire really relate to you in that same regard?
And a guy who's not just a self-made billionaire, right? Like not that Pritzker hasn't made his own money, but I mean, he's for people who don't know, it's the Hyatt Hotel.
Hyatt
family.
This
is like
this
is the same money as Mark Dayton, right?
Well, let's remember.
It's all the same, like
Dayton's
broader
family.
Target, I think.
No, well, it's
Dayton is Target. That's right. You're right.
It is Dayton Hudson, the old Dayton Hudson.
Yeah, Dayton Hudson.
Fortune.
That's right.
Penny Pritzker was Barack Obama's Commerce Secretary, which was JB's sister.
That's his sister?
Yep.
Yeah.
And the Pritzkers, they're huge. They've been huge donors, mostly to Democrats. I think there's one Republican Pritzker, if I'm not mistaken.
It's like RFK Jr.
Yeah, there's one. Every wealthy family wants to be, have somebody in either. Just like there's one Murdoch on the Democratic side, right?
Yeah. Roger Clinton.
Whatever that's a
whatever.
There's a random thing to pull out of the bag there.
Well, I do what I can.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's focus on the really important thing, Jessica, before you go. Where is the Furman, Tennessee game? And how do you feel about your alma mater's chances?
The Furman, Tennessee football game is in Knoxville, and I do
that's
not.
football. What about we want to know about Furman and basketball, right?
Oh,
yes, Furman basketball.
We play UConn, Chris.
Oh my! Well, I could not be rooting harder for you guys. I am from Connecticut, and I have always hated UConn.
Okay, well,
Danny Hurley.
I'm a Lady Vols fan, so I hate UConn.
Oh,
as well.
right, perfect.
So, yeah.
Where is the game? It's in New England then, probably, if you're playing UConn.
Philly. It's in Philly.
Well, that's an easy trip for you, though. That'll be fun.
Well, it's at 10 o'clock at night, and I'm leaving the next morning at 7 a.m. for vacation. So I'm going to be going to the Furman watch party.
Okay. Yeah. Love it. Folks, if Furman is I don't even know if it's underrated anymore because there were literally like 50 kids on this tour.
Many people are saying.
I think big league. Furman is growing.
Excellent political science department.
Chuck and I have both spoken.
Many people call it the best
place.
Many people call it the best in South Carolina. Yeah.
The Riley Institute that Dick Riley helped found. Real hands-on political science experience, bringing in speakers. I say it was the best thing I did for my career that I did the Riley Institute, and I was editor of the student paper. It melded both of it, helped solidify my decision to, and got me to where I am today. So thank you for letting me do my plug for Furman. So
there you go. In lieu of your next
from campus tour guide to making
exactly
in lieu of that
campus tour guide.
In lieu of that next large donation they're expecting every quarter from you, you can now say, no, I did it in an in-kind contribution.
Exactly. I talked about you for 5 minutes on a live stream.
Okay,
thanks, Jessica.
Thanks, guys.
Let's so we figured out what's going on with.
Tell me what to do.
Yeah.
So the total results are correct. Like that.
All right. So let me go.
Statewide is all good. What's going on is that Cook County is a place where you have a kind of a special relationship between the city of Chicago, which does its own election tabulation, and the rest of Cook County, suburban Cook County, the Cook suburbs, which also does their own collection.
So if I go here, Jeffrey, and by the way, the reason that this is a little slow, folks, is a lot of people have realized that DDHQ is the best place you can possibly go for results.
Well,
here we are.
I was going to actually suggest, either you can go to the actual page where I have actually brought up the Senate page.
Yeah, go do that because you've got it. Yeah. Lauren, switch to Jeff. Yeah.
So you can see the totals up here. Stratton with about 39%. And this is the whole of Cook County. And you compare the numbers in Cook County. So that's Chicago plus the rest of Cook County. And you look at the totals statewide, and you can see why Cook County is so important to the outcome. Because, oh, hey, look, most of the vote is from there. And yeah, and all told, as we said, something, around 4 and 5 votes will be from either Cook or these collar counties.
Jeffrey, can you scroll down to, hold on. Oh, I see it. I got you. Yeah. So look at that. I mean, it's remarkable, the extent of the vote. I just wanted to, if you scroll down, it has it county by county, which is really, it speaks to exactly the point you're making.
Yeah.
It's just, there's just like a vast sum in Cook.
Yeah. And so,
and this is to your point, Chicago versus Cook is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that we actually have it split out down here, but not in the map. And I think that's what's going on is we were seeing the Cook numbers, the Cook suburb numbers, which were very close. And that's a place where I think if you're Krishnamurthy, you want to be winning. Now, to be clear, the Cook suburbs beyond Chicago are very diverse. Like Stratton is probably doing very well. We don't have a precinct map here, but it's probably doing quite well in the Southland, which runs south of it's the suburbs, basically where Robin Kelly lives now, which is like south of Chicago in southern Cook County, which is, has a sizable Black population, is majority Black in that part of the county. But if you're Krishnamurthy, I think you're expecting, okay, maybe I lose the city of Chicago, but if I can win the Cook suburbs, which are a dead heat right now, that's what that is right there, that you're seeing at the top of this bar, and then Chicago, and then those two things are added together to get what we're seeing up here on the map. So that's the fun of Cook County, sort of the Chicago and the Cook suburbs. And if you go back and you look at historical election results in the state of Illinois, and you can go back very far, and you look at like the Illinois manual from like 1930 or something, you will see city of Chicago and Cook suburbs split. So this has been a thing for a long time.
Hey, let's do a quick little tour of those Cook congressional primaries, because I think we've got substantial amount of vote in everywhere, just to show who's leading here. Chris, Chris
Jeffrey
or whoever.
I've got it.
Or whoever wants to whip through.
Hey, Chuck, can we? I have that. We have Jaron from.
Oh, let's bring him in.
Let's bring him in. Just let's do that, and then
because it's a big moment for Kalshi. Hey, Jaron, it's good to see you again.
I've got it, Lauren. If you want to swap to mine, I've got the Kalshi odds up right now, which is like, cool. There you go. That's it.
Jaron, it's good to see you. This is perhaps the biggest moment yet for the prediction markets in the political game. In some ways, calling it before we see all the votes in Cook County, right? If you want to believe the percentages here. Does it make you nervous at all? I'm just curious.
Well, I mean, I will say for Texas, the markets had Talerico go up pretty much the entire campaign.
Right, but they blew it on Paxton, right? So, it was a sort of a split decision on that one.
Yes. Well, the market specifically was for the nominee, which is not decided yet.
Fair point. But on leading vote getter, they did have Paxton. Remember, if I believe.
Yes. Although we didn't have a specific first round highest vote getter market. But anyway.
I may be conflating with the other one, which we'll just call
which other one?
The offshore one, the one that's not yet legal, I believe. I think I've seen Tarek now in a few events. The one that's not legal in America.
Jaron, can you talk about this? Because look, it does not take a Jeffrey Skelly sized brain to say, wow, Stratton, 2 days ago was at 20%. Now she's at 96%. Is this the criticism of markets? Maybe not the criticism, but the commentary markets, they're very reactive, right? It's like, oh, Cook County, that's good for Stratton. And numbers people are like, well, let's look at the actual votes. When you look at something like this, is this the market working well?
I think so. So the markets, what they do is they focus on the results, the ultimate results of the election. And I will say in this race, in the lead up, and Stratton has been like fairly close to Krishnamurthy in the markets for about a month at least. There haven't been a ton of, indicators, whether in the polling or in early voting, that would really provide a lot of useful information. And these markets are, at the end of the day, like aggregators of information. I think they're very good at that, but there has to be some information to aggregate. And there was a couple polls showing her rising. There's obviously the spending data with the Pritzkers, backing her pretty heavily towards the end and matching, I think, Krishnamurthy in the spending. But once the votes started coming in, especially from the suburbs and the actual city of Chicago, where she's doing very well, and she's like tied in the suburban Cook County. Plus, she's actually holding her own in a lot of downstate counties. She's not getting blown out by 40.
Well, that was the first yellow flag for me on Krishnamurthy was watching.
I'll pull that up. Yeah.
We were watching it going, hey, Skelly, Stratton's doing pretty well in these early downstates. Are we overreading this? So yeah, that was a data point.
I mean, at the end of the day, the downstate's going to be more blue than green, but the thing
and you see that, Jeffrey, you're right. You see that here.
But he needed a gap. He thought he was going to get a gap, right?
But he needed to have a bigger gap. Like he needs, like Krishnamurthy needs to be carrying some of these places like Springfield or those are that's not great for him because he dominated in terms of ad spending and got out to such a large start in this race on that front that I just would imagine that his campaign was hoping to be in a better position.
Yep.
I do have a question for you, Jaron, in terms of it does seem like, to sort of getting back to the point, it does bounce around. I guess my question is, what do you think of the usefulness of this on an election night in terms of the couch markets?
Yeah, on election nights, I think it's probably, one of the most useful times because it's reacting to real votes, right? Much like a sort of needle or that kind of forecast would. And it moves, I think, very fast. And I think in a very logical way in response to what, most analysts would say, right? So a small county from downstate comes in, if Stratton's doing better, she goes, she moves up, then Chicago comes in, the suburbs, and all that is like a balance. I think the sort of logic was, she was probably expected to do fairly well in the city of Chicago, and Krishnamurthy's path was to, rack it up downstate or in the rural areas where there's not a ton of Democratic primary vote, and then counteract her, strength in Cook County in the suburbs around it where he represents as a congressman, in DuPage, which I don't think we have anything in DuPage yet. But, when that sort of started falling apart in the results, the markets moved very, dramatically for.
Yep.
It's just, that's the question. I think what Chris
I'm
is
pulling up
at,
the results here.
Jaron, which is, I am, why aren't we sitting at 70% rather than at 97%, right? That's the part of it. You sit there and you're going, yeah, okay, I get it. Stratton's more likely to win or not, right? But it's, it's the part of, I can't stand when I'm watching a basketball game or a football game and somebody will make a comeback and they'll say, well, with 5 minutes left of the fourth quarter, Team X had a 97% chance of winning. And it's like, yeah, I get it, but
that's why they play the game,
and frankly, I don't buy that it was 97%. I get it when you stack it up against historical data, but not necessarily representative of that game. So I think, and this is the hard part to parse in these prediction markets, is how much of that 97% is just money following money, and how much of it is can you take to the bank? Does that make sense, Jaron? Am I
it does. Well,
naive a little bit? Yeah.
Well, I would say one big difference between sports is that in sports, the game is actually still ongoing, and anything could happen, right? There's not necessarily
That's why I hate those things. We're never at 97% because actually, no, they're going to get the ball again and they can get an onside kick or
everyone makes a comeback in the NBA.
Right. and in
the NBA particularly.
Sorry, Jaron, go ahead.
No worries. And I'll say in this case, the votes are being counted. It's not like the campaigns are still trying to get people in line to at the polling places. And when you see completed counties and you see patterns, I think that's when you really start getting movement. Because once you see the early vote and then the day of vote, and then you see are there any sort of surprise shifts that could happen? And if there's, nothing that surprising, then the market starts to gain a very high degree of certainty. And what I found is, even if the ultimate margin is close, which, you know, the markets think it could be around 3 to 6 points, like who knows? That doesn't necessarily mean that the win percentage is lower. If the market is reasonably confident that a candidate will finish ahead, even if it is narrow, right? Like if you're overperforming in every single county by, you know, 2 to 3 points from the baseline of what you need to win, then that indicates a very clear victory, not necessarily like a 50-50 or like, you know, small advantage in the markets.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
Hey there,
interesting.
guys.
There's almost more confidence here for Stratton than we were at Tallarico Crockett at this point in time, actually.
I mean, that may have been fair, just thinking about the fact that we were very interested in what the Houston area was going to do
In same day vote.
Right.
There were a lot more same day vote that we were curious about.
That we were curious. Now,
Right.
guys, just not to break up the Senate conversation, but we do have a projection.
Let's do it. Let's get some
in
House
the
races in there.
second House district.
Ooh, this is Jesse
the
Jackson's.
the Jesse
comeback
Jackson
race.
comeback tour, the Jesse Jackson Jr. comeback tour, well, does not look like it'll be happening. Donna Miller, Cook County Commissioner, DDHQ is projecting will win the nomination in the 2nd Congressional District of Illinois.
There's those results right there.
Yes. So Miller leading. She got a ton of support from one of the APAC affiliated groups, Affordable Chicago Now, like 4.4 million on her behalf.
So this is a win for APAC.
Yes.
As we said, tonight is not about candidates. Tonight is about super PACs.
Yes. And it's interesting
Exactly.
because it's interesting actually right now, Robert Peters, who I think was probably the candidate they were most concerned about. You don't even see him on there.
I'll scroll down.
Yeah,
There he is.
You got to scroll down. He's in 4th right now. Now, maybe as we get more of the Cook vote in the end of the night, he might be in 3rd by the time we're getting more of the results. But he ended up not making as much headway as some progressives wanted. And obviously Jackson was running a bit of a progressive campaign as well. But yes, it seems like APAC is probably happy that the candidate that they spent.
You know what's funny though? It's like you would think, oh, APAC is supporting somebody. They must not be progressive. I mean, her background is former board chair for Planned Parenthood of Illinois.
Oh, yeah. She's
Former
progressive.
vice president of the Illinois Democratic Women, a Cook County commissioner. I mean, this is not
It's
Joe
just who's been
Manchin.
vocal about
the
position of Israel.
It's all tonal.
vis-a-vis the United
Totally.
States.
It's not actual
Tone.
positions. Right.
This was a kind of fun election because Jesse Jackson Jr. was backed by a lot of influential crypto PACs. And so it's
Crypto's having a bad night so far, it looks like, by the way. No?
Yeah, because
Jared?
Krishnamurti too, right?
Yeah. I mean, Fair Shake was doing Krishnamurti, Jesse Jr.
Actually, with Junior, I think it was AI money, if I'm not mistaken. But I can understand why we would. Think Big was the one that's.
Think Big is the AI one.
Is
yeah,
AI.
Fair Shake.
I mean, understandably, there's like all these different little.
And if we can't keep it straight, guess who really can't keep it straight? The average voter who is not paid to watch this stuff all the time. I mean,
but Jackson got 1.4 million basically in outside support from Think Big, which I think is closer aligned to OpenAI. In my
I think that's right.
Yeah, there's the two AIs, right? There's the pro-regulation AI group, the Anthropic group.
Yeah,
in fact, I just interviewed
Anthropic and OpenAI. Yeah,
I interviewed the guy who runs that group these days, the political super PAC, former Democratic Congressman Brad Carson.
I did not know that he's the guy who runs it. Former Oklahoma
Democrat
Brad Carson.
And in fact,
species.
you'll be able to check him out on the Chuck ToddCast in a couple days. But we talk about. Wow. And this is basically the AI money is divided in two. You have Anthropic on essentially on the, yes, we want states to regulate. And then you have what OpenAI is doing, which is, hey, give us a runway.
And I think in that New York 12th Congressional District Democratic primary, we're going to see some of that play out. I'm currently, because I've been thinking so much about Illinois, I'm blanking on the name of the candidate. But I know that that's a place where we might see sort of the two sides of that coin really play out in terms of outside spending.
Hey, Jaron, can I ask you one last thing? I don't want to keep you too long, but how do you guys do, like, I would assume I cannot now go bet on Illinois too. I cannot place money in the prediction market. How do you guys at what point do you close it?
Oh, I see.
Entirely. AP, is it decision desk? Like, how do you guys say
when do you shut it down? When do you stop taking money?
So currently, we officially resolve or determine the market after 4 out of 8 like national media organizations, including DDHQ, project a winner. And then we have this 48-hour waiting period. It's sort of like a buffer period.
In case there's like
so you don't pay out
counts.
Either,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, the results aren't official. To be fair. Yeah.
Right. And we did this looking at like, historical cases like California's 21st district, even like Bush v. Gore, to try to figure out like where some of the edge cases. The market remains open during that time, but people will pull their orders from the order book because there's like the race has effectively been called, and so there's no liquidity in the market. So you couldn't really put money down if you wanted to most of the time.
So let me get a more detailed question, a little bit in the weeds. And William Abreu just homered. It is now 2-0 Venezuela over today, and we are in the fifth. But Jaron, which is because you can also bet on percentages or the spread.
Yes,
and that's actually something that you don't actually have the final percentages for all the candidates until the certification, arguably. Yeah. So how long do you wait to pay out something like that?
Well, until the final official results are certified, which can take weeks to months.
I was just people are. How much do you get people that hold contracts complaining about that? Quite a bit, I imagine, right?
I mean, sometimes people will. There's actually, it's funny because even at the end there is a sort of 1 cent, from 99 cents to $1 that you could theoretically make. So sometimes there is people who will, don't want to hold it and they'll sell at 99 cents.
Oh, I know a bunch of people that used to do that with predicted in the 93 cent states, 94 cent states. Right. And, if you put enough money down, you might make $400.
If the front end is big enough, 5 cents can matter.
They used to have a cap on what you could bet, but I knew a lot of people that just tried to make money off of that cap.
Yeah, but obviously we can't determine until the results are final. So.
Jaron, we're going to run through some house stuff. We're going to let you go. Thank you, my friend. Jaron Zhu from Cal Sheet. Thank you, dude.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
And hey,
and like I said, I think this is a big deal tonight for the prediction markets. I really do. I think it's a huge deal, and I think it's a level of respect from skeptics, even like myself. And I count myself an optimistic skeptic of what they're doing. I'm pro it. Most of it. There's some things I can quibble with, but this is a big deal if this is as accurate as it looks.
Thanks, Jaron.
It was early. Yeah.
Appreciate you, man. I wanted to say, because I don't know if you guys have heard this, but I have heard it from a couple people, now that we've done a few of these, like, why do you have the markets guy on? Why do you show the markets? It is, whether you agree or disagree with markets, it is a giant, and I would say even still undercovered by the mainstream media story. I just looked at this. There's like $1 million in this, $1.172 million in this market right here that you're looking at. Like,
look,
there is a massive amount of money being transacted here.
I don't know. I don't know if this is good or bad for society, right?
I don't either. But it's everyone has it pulled up. It's like Jess Taylor, who we were talking about. It's like, she's looking. Everyone is looking at him. That's why I will note for people that DDHQ has. There's Kalshi, and there's Polymarket. Like they have these built into this votes dashboard, which is amazing.
And look,
in addition to results and stuff.
Look, we don't have exit polling.
That's right.
And we used to have
less
polling.
than ever.
Less than ever.
That's right.
So we're all looking for a tea leaf here or tea leaf there, and this is just a different flavor of tea than we've ever had before. Okay,
hey, Chuck,
but it's a different level of tea. Oh, good, Melissa Bean.
You mentioned
Welcome
house
back.
races, Jeffrey. I'm just going to walk through them. Why don't you talk to them? But I'm going to walk through some of these. We've got a few minutes before our next.
This is
guest, now's the time to knock it out.
This is Krishnamurthy's district that he's vacating. Melissa Bean once had it when she won it. It was a huge deal. This was This was
very moderate Democrat.
Back when it was a really hard. It was basically a Republican suburban district back when those used to exist. is no longer that. This is now sort of a suburban blue district. But
was this
Melissa
Joe
Bean,
Walsh's district when he was a conservative Republican before he became anti-Trump? Is this that?
this is not Joe Walsh.
No.
So she
Walsh
did
was
not
in the
beat
10th.
Walsh.
Walsh
Okay,
was in the
10th.
10th.
Okay, got it. Just wanted to check. I knew it was in there. Is this surprising, Jeffrey? Probably not, given what Chuck said.
No, I
she's a
believe
member.
she lost to Bob Dole, if I recall.
Bob Dole.
Yeah.
Sure.
Not Bob Dole. Bob Dole.
No, get out of Bob Dole's chair.
She won a district that, God, I'm blanking
I
on the
was
guy's
trying to
name, but
remember who she
he
beat.
ran. Well, he vacated to run statewide, and I think lost, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway,
I'm embarrassed that we don't know.
Bean is trying to make a comeback to rejoin Congress after serving in the aughts, and Junaid Ahmed is the progressive candidate in this race, sort of the leading progressive candidate, and he has like the endorsements of the Congressional Progressive Caucus and Justice Democrats, and has gotten some
she's
spending.
Clearly more moderate,
But she's clearly more moderate,
Yeah.
and Bean has gotten a ton of outside money. Basically, you've got Elect Chicago Women, which is an APAC associated group, has spent about $4 million on her behalf.
Yeah.
Think Big, which is AI group, a little over $1 million. The New Democratic, the Super PAC associated with the New Democrat Coalition.
Well,
The
she was
center
always
left-
considered a sort of a Chamber of Commerce Democrat.
Yes, they've spent almost $1 million on her behalf, and so you've got all this outside money that is poured in to try to help her.
Let me confess a political junkie mistake here. I can't believe I forgot this, but she beat Phil Crane.
Oh my gosh, who had been there for 600 years? How could
Former
we forget
presidential
Phil Crane?
candidate,
He'd
I
been
know.
there for like 40 years.
Yeah. And in fact,
I knew she beat someone that we knew, and I could not remember.
then it was like, oh, is it an accident? Was she
Totally.
accidental? And then, because of Phil.
She wound up being, I thought, pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think she lost it. Did she lose in a wave? Skelly?
Yeah, she lost in 2010.
Yeah,
She lost
10.
She lost in 10. Yeah.
All right, let me quickly run through some of these other ones. Hold on. Let me just run through.
We may get Melissa
As we
Bean
said,
back.
2 has been called. Here's 7. And then I'll go to 9 too. And like I said, just give me a minute because this may be either my computer slowness or there are a zillion people on.
People are using it.
Yeah.
Which is good. It's a good problem to have. So basically, this race
99% now in all the markets.
So Danny Davis's old district. This is like the one. This is a plurality black district. It's the bluest district in Illinois. It's the one district that isn't maybe as from the perspective of how Democrats have gerrymandered the hell out of Illinois. It's the one that you might argue is not perhaps as perhaps because they were worried about Voting Rights Act issues.
It's like somebody with a comb over who still has hair on the top of their head,
exactly.
Right. It's not
But
fully
it's not
Steve
not a full
Shabbat.
fuck. Yeah.
It's still really blue and not, whereas a lot of the districts around it go out and take in some red turf far away. So interesting. Danny K. Davis, longtime member from this district. I mean, the Loop is in there. It's like downtown Chicago out to like Oak Park and then out to the
out west.
Western part.
Yeah.
And then takes in parts of the South Side, which is heavily African American. LaShawn Ford has Davis's endorsement. Ford has fundraised okay in terms of his campaign, but he had basically almost no outside support. Whereas Melissa Conyers Irvin, who is the city treasurer of Chicago, got a ton of money spent on her behalf from an APAC associated group. Again, this time
This is
actually the one that
group,
everybody
right?
knows was United Democracy Project, which APAC is like
Right.
the openly known.
There was one that
APAC.
was a little lesser known, right? The group of Chicago women, I think it was.
Yeah,
right?
so like Chicago
Which is the
Women,
Melissa Bean one.
Affordable
Right.
Chicago Now. I think there's also there's like a progress one. It's like Chicago Progressive something. Anyway, Chicago Progressive Partnership. That's the other one. Anyway, they spent a bunch of money on behalf of Conyers Irvin, and Ford is leading despite that, and we got a while to go, but I think it's probably a good sign for him that he's still holding up. I think he would be considered more progressive as an alternative.
Yeah.
And then the 9th district.
Here's
the
nine, which is
ninth.
the one
The
if you
two
know
progressives.
anything about an Illinois house race.
And look
you
at
probably know about.
Abu Ghazala.
Abu
She's-
Ghazala
she was
is
starting to
in
make
the
a
Abu
mix.
little
Ghazala.
run.
There we go. Abu
Yep.
Ghazala.
He's in the
I'm going to get it
mix.
right. Abu Ghazala. This ain't over yet. Not callable yet.
Yeah, Daniel Biss and Kat Abu Ghazala are sort of the two progressive candidates in this race. Biss maybe the more sort of mainstream progressive, if you will. Elected official, ran for
Right.
governor in 2018, was in the state legislature, mayor of Evanston right now, well known, has the Congressional Progressive Caucus's endorsement. And then Abu Ghazaleh, who's running arguably as sort of a more vocal,
a real insurgent race.
Insurgent. I mean, it is insurgent.
Oh,
100%. Insurgency.
She's barely lived here.
Never run for anything. She's not from here. But she raised the most money out of the candidates. Which is, I mean, she's
taking advantage of having built a very large social media network. In her work online, she became really well known. We mentioned this earlier tonight, but people are watching now. One of our guests mentioned it. Basically, she was Media Matters person watching Tucker Carlson, and so she gained a lot of notoriety doing that. And she kind of her reputation kind of grew from there. And so she was kind of journalist, but on the left, and then she became more of a progressive sort of content creator, more focused on that. But she built up a huge following. And then when she ran for Congress, she ended up getting a lot of donations and a lot of small dollar donations. If you look at the breakdown of itemized, which is larger donations, and unitemized donations, I think like 2/3 or something of her donations.
Yeah, itemized is 200 and above, right? And unitemized everything below.
Yeah, correct. And it's a huge,
so she got a lot of unitemized.
Huge share unitemized, which speaks to sort of her appeal. I mean, who she's drawing from. Before we get to John Kuvion, can I just, since Skelly mentioned Tucker Carlson, can you please tell me you have seen the Saturday Night Live impression that guy did of Tucker Carlson this weekend? Chuck, have you seen this? What is going on?
It's so brilliant. I mean, it is so brilliant. It's
really well done.
I'll speak for Chuck and I definitely knew Tucker.
I'm doing my best. I'm trying to do my Tucker.
You're doing your Tucker. I can tell. We knew Tucker pre this latest iteration of Tucker, like when Tucker wrote for Talk Magazine and Tina Brown. But my God, it made me laugh. What's happening? What's going on? It's really good. Anyway, Chuck, you want to bring in John?
Look, this is, in my household, he is the favorite guest of my household, Mr. Kuvion.
Wow. That matters.
You need to know this, John. Mrs. Todd always is like, yes, my numbers guy. And yet I'm like, honey, we're all numbers people. No. She's like, Kuvion, that guy really is a numbers guy. Anyway, huge fan. So been looking forward to this 15 minutes, sir.
Well, thank you very much. And actually, I have a couple numbers as, I guess, appetizers and or the main course for tonight. The first thing which kind of has been catching my interest tonight, as well as throughout midterm primary season, has been the strength or lack thereof of Democratic enthusiasm, because the central thesis I've had for years, going all the way back to 2010, is you could get a distant early warning, so to speak, of what's going to happen in November by the strength or lack thereof of partisan voting. So in Illinois, the last time that the Republicans actually won a majority of the primary vote was back in 2014, which of course was not only the Republican landslide year, but that was the year that Bruce Rauner actually upset a Democratic incumbent, and accordingly, Republican turnout exceeded Democratic turnout in the March Illinois primary. Now, what has happened since then, in the year that J.B. Pritzker was elected 8 years ago, 65% of those voting in the primary picked the Democratic ballot. That was 53% Democratic in 2022. But according to the data I'm seeing tonight, and this is, by the way, projecting ahead, since, of course, the Democratic and the Republican primary vote is coming in at different rates, I'm estimating 75% of the total vote in Illinois will be cast on the Democratic side. Now, you can make the argument that the Senate race is certainly driving some of that interest, and I would not argue with that central thesis. However, when I'm seeing the numbers are that strong for the Democrats, that's basically suggesting to me a collapse of the Republican firewall that you once had in places like Lake and DuPage and McHenry and Will.
And do you at all then read into the fact that Democrats outpolled Republicans in Texas? Do you is this starting to put together? Are you painting a picture here?
It's a series of data points, because the thing about it is the Democrats outvoting Republican in Texas is certainly not something you would normally see, because it has not happened since 2002. But when you're starting to see this kind of thing repetitively happen in multiple states, the Republican turnout was not quite what it was in the past in places like Mississippi and Arkansas. The Democrats have a turnout lead in Texas, and then in North Carolina, And now in Illinois, you're seeing these top-heavy numbers. When you see that and you combine it with the fact that you had double-digit Democratic gains in the Virginia legislature, that many data points in addition to the special elections that those on election Twitter have been talking about, it's hard to ignore that the accumulation of that many data points.
And John, I think you're right to focus on it because, you know, there's something about, it's like deciding to invest in a stock and then suddenly you watch your stock. When you decide to vote in a primary, you're then a little more invested in that election. And I promise you, if you've chosen to show up in a primary, you're definitely showing up in a general.
Yes.
So there is this, it's sort of, you know, it's certainly correlated, right?
Yes. And before I get to my second point, the other thing that's important for people to appreciate, it's easy to dismiss this as saying, oh, well, there was mega bucks being spent on the Illinois Senate race. That is true. However, Illinois is the kind of state to where not only do you have these statewides on the ballot, but you also have the local races, the legislative, perhaps some countywide and so forth.
Up and down the state. Yeah.
Yes. So in other words, this to me is kind of a portrait of partisan enthusiasm. Now, the other thing that's interesting too is when you're looking at the Democratic Senate primary, the fact that Juliana Stratton has held a consistent 5-point lead throughout the night, I did what I typically like to do is let's look at the component parts of the Illinois electorate. So it is true that Cook County in a Democratic setting is the dominant player. More specifically, when J.B. Pritzker was elected 8 years ago, 57% of the total statewide Democratic vote came from Cook County alone. But having said that, Stratton has a 10-point lead in Cook County, which not terribly surprising given that you have the presence of suburban neighborhoods in there. But more importantly is when you're seeing that she's only trailing by 6 points downstate. And I have a very loose definition of downstate here, which is basically everything outside of Cook County. In other words,
basically here downward. Right?
I-80 south of I-80, right?
Yeah.
And see, the thing that's interesting is you're not having this firewall that Krishnamurthy can depend on in either suburban Chicago and or downstate. When I'm seeing certain parts of central Illinois that are supporting Stratton, that suggests to me, particularly when you center it on Sangamon County, like what you just did, that the Pritzker endorsement probably had the widest echo in the Springfield media market and probably the surrounding other media markets like say Peoria and Champaign and all that.
Look all in the kind of center of the state, right? And we had talked about this, is that Krishnamurthy, you need to see more dark blue in here, right? The light blue is he's winning by a small margin, dark blue is winning by a bigger margin, right? Like all through here, I totally agree. She is much more competitive than I think people thought. I think you focus, John, to your point, you focus on Chicago, right? But like in here, there are real votes in here. It's, you know, Chicago's obviously dominant, but there are real votes in here. And even in like, you know, here's Kane, he's winning, but he's not crushing her, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Are we to read in that maybe this is a bit of rejection of some of the other special interest money out there, or what? Since Stratton had the least amount of it outside of the governor, which was his own version of a special interest group.
There's a lot of ways you could look at this, but I think this is very much a case of J.B. Pritzker can claim a trophy in this primary race, because not only does he certainly have the resources to get his endorsement out, but the fact that I would say that he has the respect of progressive Illinois Democrats because of the agenda he's pushed through, that if he says he supports Juliana Stratton, I think that is kind of a permission slip, so to speak, for Democrats in central Illinois and to some extent the Chicago suburbs, that's okay to support Stratton.
Well, that's the other thing I'm taking away from tonight so far is maybe I need to stop underestimating the J.B. Pritzker as a potential national candidate.
I was thinking the exact same thing. I always dismiss him. I'm always like, you know, like Mr. Moneybags, like the Democratic billionaire
of the billionaire business.
Yeah. It's interesting. Does that, John, is there anything that you look, when you look, because you're the numbers, when you look at this, I just got the full map pulled up here. Is there anything out there? Is this, I guess it's going to be hard to know. I wonder if it's Krishnamurti underperforming or Stratton overperforming, but is it that kind of Springfield media market performance that strikes you? I mean, obviously everyone's going to look at Cook County because of so much of the votes there, but is that middle of the state? You think that's a Pritzker endorsement bump?
It certainly doesn't hurt, because when I'm looking at the overlay of this against the Springfield media market, it's kind of hard to dismiss that there isn't a correlation. Because otherwise, if you would have stereotypically thought that, oh, well, Stratton is just going to, not do as well once you get outside the Cook County limits, I would have expected a solid wall of Krishnamurti blue once you started in the DuPage and Lake County lines.
Right.
When I'm seeing this many counties that are supporting Stratton, that suggests to me that she has a powerful patron.
Yes.
Yep,
And that his
totally agree.
And his patronage is more than just money, that it matters that he put his shoulder behind her, literally.
Right. And that's, Chuck, just to your point, it's like, remember the early handicapping of this race was Krishnamurti has so much money that he's, in the bank, that he had been saving, that he's going to overwhelm everyone on TV, organizationally, right? I mean, that was the storyline. And so if Pritzker is able to sort of, push that back,
it's an interesting development. And look, we've already seen this, that money matters, but it's not decisive, right? And it's like, how many times do we have to learn that lesson, and what type of money? And outside group money can help, but it also isn't always decisive, because there is lack of coordination, and there is sort of hijackingness that happens sometimes with campaign messaging from outside groups and the campaign and all of that. But look, all in all, I am not underestimating JB Pritzker anymore.
And I think, just to be clear here, it is, John made the point, it's close-ish, but you would much rather, based on what we've seen, you'd much rather be Stratton than Krishnamurti. But you know what I mean? Yes, of course things can change.
Right.
Or 61% of the vote in, you would assume, to the extent there's any early, which I believe Krishnamurti would do better with because of his organization.
Right.
The problem is we know what's left. And if Cook County, it's all coming out of Cook.
That's right.
And it's interesting towards your point, even though the race has not been officially called yet, if let's pretend Stratton had started off the evening +10 and that +10 became +7, +4, et cetera, I might conclude that, okay, Chicago is not the be all and end all. But when I'm seeing that it's been a relatively constant +6, and then I broke it down between Cook and non-Cook. And by the way, even within Cook, as Jeffrey pointed out earlier this evening about the separate reportings between the city of Chicago and the suburban Cook areas, basically the two are splitting suburban Cook. And so, even though Stratton is doing well in Chicago, it's not like 5 and 6 to 1, it's 2 to 1. So in other words, she does have a definite base of strength outside Chicago. And I think too, when you're talking about the this is not safe for children kind of tone to her ads, I think that does speak to the white hot level of Democratic anger against President Trump that Stratton has captured.
It's such a good point.
Model.
Well,
It's
and
such
by
a
the
good
way,
point. We ran that ad
we
earlier.
don't. By the way, it's funny. There's gonna be some quick takeaways, right? That says, well, Texas had a choice between sort of a bomb thrower and the non-bomb thrower, and they took the non-bomb thrower. And Illinois had a choice between a bomb thrower and a non-bomb thrower.
Right.
They took the bomb thrower. But there's one big difference, right? We don't know if there were a runoff or if this were a two-way race.
That's right.
Whether there is 50% +1.
Right.
Of which side of the aisle it is. But we do know this. There's a strong chunk of Democrats that want somebody to punch Trump in the nose.
Yep.
Okay. It's somewhere between 40 and 47%. Well,
Right.
that's a massively winning number in Illinois tonight.
There's also a critical difference, too, when you're talking about the Democratic political infrastructure of Illinois versus Texas, in that Illinois, for as long as I can remember, you've always had a pretty much a top-down structure of,
very much so. It's a
as
machine
Cook
state.
County goes, so does the rest of the state.
100%. Mike Madigan running everything, right? I mean, it's one of the machine politics are almost dead, but they're not entirely dead. And this, Illinois, at least Chicago, Cook County is where they die loud. I think that's such a it is a top down.
What's
state.
Interesting is that Pritzker. I think we thought the death, essentially the political death of Madigan, was going to flatten things out in Illinois. And it hasn't yet.
Pritzker kind of took that role with his money.
He's the role. He's running the machine. Yeah.
Okay. All right, John, you're the man. Love it. Love the numbers.
Great to see you, John.
Yep. Good evening.
And we'll see you. I guess we won't see it on May. I mean, that's a long way.
Well, hey,
we may do the April. We may have some fun with April.
Is writing hard for the April 21 Virginia redistricting referendum. Chuck, I just have a few data points.
Let's do it.
I want to say before these are from Decision Desk HQ, and Skelly will be back on. He can run them through them more. But let me note, the race has not been called. Okay, by Decision Desk.
Very important to know. Apparently only Kalshi investors have done that. Yeah.
Hear that before anything else. But I do want a couple bullet points from the Decision Desk HQ folks that I think are really important. The remaining votes coming in are likely to be very favorable to Stratton. 70,000 remain on election night, and Stratton is winning them by 25 points over Krishnamurthy. Okay. The Collier County, so DuPage will, they have only election day vote remaining, which has been about even between the two candidates. And John was making this point. Stratton is run surprisingly strong in downstate counties, winning population. So Peoria, Springfield, Champaign. Yep. Krishnamurthy's best vote was early. We just talked about this, early absentee. All of that has been run through. So his best vote is already included. Stratton's best vote is election day, still coming in and remains to come in and around the Chicago collar. So
you're basically telling me is Kalshi's right?
It looks like Kalshi is going to be right. And again, let me emphasize, Chuck and I saying it looks like Kalshi is going to be right is not the same thing as Jeffrey Skelly, who has just come back on saying Decision Desk HQ has called it. They have not called it, but just to repeat, you would, and Jeffrey, I want you to take it from here. You would much rather be Juliana Stratton than Roger Krishnamurthy right now.
I've been in this role, Jeffrey, where you're like, yeah, we know we're going to call this race soon, but we still don't quite have enough data points to do it.
Right. I mean, look, the situation is that we're still waiting on a bit more vote from particularly, for example, DuPage, which Krishnamurthy
I'll highlight that.
Part of.
Right. DuPage
he represents part of that. Part of that district is there.
That's
but
here.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. And Cook, but Cook next door overall, Stratton is up about 10 percentage points there. That lead is not shrinking. And I think for Krishnamurthy, the challenge is that at the end of the day, he needed to be winning in the Cook suburbs. And yet so far we've got
I mean, let's be honest.
83% in, and Stratton is running dead even with him in the Cook suburbs and winning in Chicago.
I think,
I would say, look,
he screams suburban candidate to me, right? Just on paper, right? The basic premise was, oh, he's the suburban candidate, she's the Chicago candidate, and the governor's candidate. Boy, Robin Kelly, isn't she going to take away from Stratton, right? It was sort of the quick. Back of the
They're
envelope.
both black women.
Yeah, the black women. They're going to eat each other. Okay, so Krishnamurthy wins, right?
Yeah.
And no, that's not what's going to be.
It is interesting because looking at the map on the whole, like I expected.
Hold on, let me pull back.
More blue downstate than we've gotten. Now, obviously,
we were talking about that when you were off. Totally.
No, Kavulian, I really think that we are that Pritzker's, being able to put his stamp of approval on Stratton said
and
something.
Money.
It wasn't just money, but it did seem to matter to rank and file Democrats downstate.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think there is also something to be said that in some of these very small counties that don't have a lot of voters, if you're a Democrat in that county, you might be relatively progressive because you're just so
you're progressive,
you're radical,
or are you on the F Trump? Are you on the
F Trump train?
Right.
Yes,
yeah.
And so that may have appealed to you, given that you live in very, very conservative territory for the most part. That may
you feel like you're surrounded and there's a voice for you.
I'll be honest. I don't know if Raja Krishnamurthy's ever uttered the F word.
I know.
Like I say this with respect. He's a very polite, he's not, this is not his style of politics. He never was going to be that person.
Hey, Chuck, let's bring Adam in.
Oh, that'd be great.
While we're debating all this. Adam Carlson from Zenith. Hey, dude, how are you?
Hey, thanks for having me back. How you guys doing?
Of course, man.
Good to see you.
It's always a good sign that we like you, that you're back.
We're,
I'll take it.
We like being surprised. We thought we thought we had an idea of how tonight could go, and we didn't think we would even be we weren't 100% convinced we would feel decisive tonight. We thought possibly it wouldn't be callable. We're not saying it is callable yet, but so we're mildly surprised about the direction of the night. What say you, Mr. Carlson?
Yeah, well, I'm not one for predictions usually, but I usually get bullied into it. I had I just people on Twitter. They're like, oh, what do you think is going to happen? I don't know, because my head and my gut usually go in different directions. But I had before tonight Biss +5 and Stratton +2, so that's looking pretty. A rare win for me in the prediction game.
Yeah, let me pull up 9.
Biss may end up in a tighter race than 5, by the way.
Yeah, I think it'll tighten a little bit, but I think there's still more of the suburban vote out as well to counteract Chicago.
Yeah, he's up 4.5.
He's up 4 right now.
And you're right. Like 90% of Cook is in, and only 40% of Lake is in. So there's a little bit more.
That's the problem.
Nothing out here.
Abu Ghazaleh is not going to be doing as well there, and so
she's not going to do as well the further away from you get from Chicago.
Well, the problem with her campaign is that she really needed to kind of blow the doors off in Chicago in particular, and then
Cook.
and do what she can do in Evanston, which unfortunately is where Biss is from. That's also where Northwestern is. Getting the college kids to vote. And then other than that, it's kind of slim pickings for her. You can win parts of Skokie, which is super diverse, has a large Asian population, South Asian population. But beyond that, it's really just kind of like Biss and Fine Country. And Biss has
nothing from McHenry, that little part of McHenry, that'll probably go to 5.
Yeah, but it's like 7% of the district. It's like tiny sliver.
Yeah,
but he has like a real base, right? I mean, he was a state senator. He's mayor of Evanston. Like it's like she built from nothing, which I think gives her some.
Jeffrey has a good point.
Right.
Like, he ran in 2018, and like he has a lot of name recognition from that run. He was the progressive insurgent against J.B. Pritzker and did pretty well in this district, not just in his state senate district. Which Laura Fine succeeded him after that, but in the other parts,
that's right. She's the current state senator of his old state senate district,
redrawn, but same basic.
And so I assume though, like margin wise, and Jeffrey, correct us here, but like again, you'd much rather be Biss at this point than Abu Ghazaleh, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's almost callable.
Yeah,
I mean, look, it's one of these situations where that remaining vote in Cook. If it's all in Chicago, which is probably the case. Now, Abu Ghazaleh, and this is probably the reason we have not projected it yet, is that it's probably all in Chicago proper, and she is winning in the Chicago part of the district by 11 points. But in the Cook outside of Chicago part, Biss is up 9, and Biss is up 10 in Lake, and so Biss is up. It's just if that Chicago part, I think it's just just caution on if that remaining vote were to blow the door, to use that phrase again, blow the doors off, that for her could be, that's really her only path.
So,
hey, let's bring the, there is one Republican race and it just to, I think the raw numbers of the vote count matter here too, but let's do governor here just to show you.
Darren Bailey.
Darren Bailey, DDHQ, decision desk called it a while ago. That's why you see the green check mark there. But this was, he's the nominee from last time. But more importantly, look at just that turnout of just raw vote to
so here's
point.
I was going to say there's let me scroll. Sorry, I'm on the wrong
looking
screen.
at,
let me scroll.
Yeah, I mean,
once you get beyond that, so there's 50, call it 150.
The other notable candidate, and Dabrowski was going to do better in the Chicago area, but Bailey, who's from downstate, that's where he's a state senator.
He's here.
The question is whether or not the over/under is about 500,000 total vote for Republican total vote, and we're going to have 3x that. It looks like on the Democratic side, 1.4, 1.5 million, and we're
let me pull
basically
that
going to
up.
have 500,000 on the Republican. I mean, that just underscores John's point of just, and yes, you can make the argument, well, there's all this action on the Democratic side, but there's downstate tickets, there's there are primaries everywhere. That is a yellow flag for Republicans. Not yet a red flag because it's only a couple of states and it's a blue state, but that's
Adam,
a yellow flag.
Can we talk about, I don't want to lose sight of the Senate race because obviously I think when people, Abu Ghazaleh is someone who's gotten a lot of attention, but beyond that, Jesse Jackson Jr. has already lost according to DDHQ.
Yep.
I always love this question. What's the big story? Let's just suggest, and again, I just want to be clear, DDHQ is not called the race for Stratton, but let's say that Stratton wins.
Yeah.
Is the big story Stratton wins or Pritzker wins?
Depends on who you ask. I think if you ask Pritzker privately, maybe it's about him, and and he can kind of notch this on his belt. He's also a very, very, very competitive person, even for a politician.
He beat the crypto PACs and the AI PACs. That's no small thing. He does not
like to lose. It's a made storyline for 2028 for him.
Totally.
Right. Like I elevated my black woman lieutenant governor. Even though there's another black candidate in the race, the CBC was against me. When I go to bat, I go.
You think the CBC is going to deny Juliana Stratton membership?
Right.
I don't think. I hope not.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No. Yeah. I think that he can point to this as another victory and a sign of his influence and his ability to kind of spend. Like I can't be bought, and I can spend what I need to for what I believe in and who I believe in. I think the bigger story is Stratton, and I think that she was vastly outspent. Yes, the Pritzker cavalry came for her, but late. Like Raja, the big story to me is you can't buy popularity. But
late is unique in this primary, by the way. I don't mean to interrupt you, Adam. Actually, I know you said that Pritzker came in late, but in a state that still has a large chunk of vote that waits till election day to vote, coming in late when you're being outspent is actually the right move.
Yeah, I think Raja tried the strategy of he's been angling to run for this seat for a long time, and
we said the day he got elected to Congress.
Yeah. He started thinking about that Durbin seat. Durbin's going to be there forever,
ruthless fundraiser.
You don't raise $30 million or whatever he had in the bank. You don't raise $30 million without secretly kind of loving it.
Yeah, no, and he's backed by a huge amount of South Asian outside money, the Impact Fund. And Fair Shake, the crypto PAC, went hard after Stratton, implicitly trying to back Raja, who's kind of gone back and forth on crypto. But I think the big story here is you can't buy an election, right? Pritzker spent a lot of money, but he was still, you combine all the money. Stratton and Pritzker were still outspent and still won.
Yeah, but it still wasn't Stratton's campaign. It still was Pritzker's campaign on behalf of Stratton, right? We still had a bunch of primary campaigns.
Well, without
the sugar
his
daddy
money,
or sugar mommy mattered most, right?
I would say, Adam, what do you make of that? Because I don't want to look as a middle-aged white guy. I don't want to say, see, the white guy giving the money to the black woman is the only reason the black lady won. But I also think without how much are we, because you said Stratton deserves credit, obviously, if you're the candidate and you win, but does she go without the Pritzker money and sort of imprimatur? Does it go?
Yeah, I think that without his money, I think she's a harder time getting her message out. Her job becomes extraordinarily more difficult. And I think Raja probably wins. We'll never know. But she made the most of that opportunity, I think. Jesse Jackson, slip up notwithstanding yesterday and the day before, ran a pretty error-free campaign. It got started kind of late, but to your point, sometimes, late momentum is the way to go. And I think for me, late momentum is more valuable than kind of bombing the airwaves super duper early. Raja just blanketed every media market.
Yes,
Stratton couldn't afford with her campaign to advertise outside of Chicago and maybe Champaign to get the college kids out. But so he had the whole race to himself, the whole state to himself for months. And it wasn't enough, right? He was not able to, even his own internal polling showed him slipping towards the end, still holding a sizable lead. And we kind of went into this blind, right? We didn't have a lot of polling. I wouldn't be the pollster here if I didn't talk about the polling.
Well, we had polling, but it was always like some interest groups polled to prove
people
that
I've
their
never
money
heard
was
of,
working.
right?
Right, but it was all
had-
these like it was
Yeah.
all these pollsters making cash off of these third-party groups.
And I was going to say paid for by super PACs that all have like the George Costanza like human fund name. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like impossible to tell who's for what.
Exactly.
Yeah, Americans for a Democratic Democracy or whatever.
Yes,
you know.
that sounds good.
But yeah, it was the best poll we probably had towards the end that could capture momentum was sponsored by DraftKings. Like, I don't know what kind of world we're living in. It's going to be like
I did not see that. They
I
sponsored
missed
a
the
poll?
DraftKings poll.
they had
Well,
What
it's
is their
sponsored
interest
by
in
the
it?
group that they fund? Which
But
is
what
like
is
American-
their interest
American
in the
Future
race? Is
PAC.
there some kind
Oh,
of
they're-
online?
Please,
Is there-
prediction mark. They're. I don't
Well,
know which side of they are
They
on
didn't.
this because
They haven't explicitly backed
They-
anybody, which is why it was so clear.
they're more worried about state legislative stuff, about
Right.
being taxed,
being regulated and
regulated.
Yeah,
But they did release that number. But we didn't have any crosstabs. We were all going on speculation of what was going to happen. And I think that, it wouldn't have shocked me if Raja had won this race, and he still could theoretically. We've still have a bunch of votes out. But, I think Pritzker is a big winner tonight. I think Stratton is a big winner tonight, obviously. I think the CBC had a really bad night and kind of looked like, you can call them, they were purposely, they're putting up one of their own with Robin Kelly, right? One of their own members. But there was kind of this personal animus between Robin Kelly and JB Pritzker, dating back to when she was state party chair,
Right.
when the party was transitioning from Madigan to Pritzker. There was this little intermediate period when it was just like the Durbin people were coming in, and it was her show. And then Pritzker was like, I'm funding this whole party. I'm going to push her out, and did. And so that's a part of the equation here is like how
welcome
much
to
of the run-
welcome to what governors normally do in most states. They run their own state party.
But they were pissed
It's just how
off,
it
right?
works.
And
Yeah.
they, I think you give them truth serum. At the end of the day, they're gonna be like, yeah, we're trying to spoil this race, right? For Pritzker, even if it ends up with Raja winning. And it look like they're gonna come short. Come up short of that.
Yeah. All right.
But it's
Thank
still
you,
a big
Adam.
deal. Look, it's a big
Yeah.
deal. We're going to have our third African American woman in the Senate.
Yep.
And the first Senate delegation, I believe, to send 2 women of color to the Senate at the same time.
There you
Oh,
go.
interesting. Right. Duckworth and interesting. Yep.
I'm trying to think if Hawaii has done it, but I don't think it has.
Not 2 women.
Yeah.
No, not
Right.
two women.
Th-
No.
they've had 2 senators
Right.
that were non-white senators.
In a way,
but
in a caca.
2 women. Right.
Yep.
Everybody always
All right,
remembered
At-
Akaka because he came first in the vote count.
That's
Akaka.
exactly right.
That's
Mr.
right. Akaka.
Akaka.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, dude.
All right.
Take care. Hey, Jeffrey, can I just lean on your smarts here? And for people who are wondering, it's just after 10 o'clock Eastern and 9 o'clock in Chicago. Why? Let me flash to the prediction markets real quick, which have been overwhelmingly. Chuck and I were talking about this. This
big
is a
night for
victory
them
if
if
Stratton wins.
if
This
Stratton
is a victory for the
yeah.
prediction markets, like winners
Sure
and
is.
losers. Can you explain why the race has what are you guys waiting on? Take us inside sort of how
boiler
you
room,
guys
yeah.
approach this.
Yeah, so I think at the end of the day, the reason we haven't projected it is just down to wanting to see a little bit more of the
Just more
election day vote.
Yep.
Especially in the collar counties around Chicago. The fact that Stratton ended up being stronger downstate maybe than we expected has maybe given her there's not a
It's a
ton
lot of
votes.
green down there, brother. That's a
as we
lot of
talked-
green downstate.
As
Totally.
we talked about,
Yeah.
80% of the vote is in the Chicago area.
Yeah.
So not a ton of votes, but I think the expectation, and this shows you what expectations are, they're not always right, was that Christian Murthy was going to have at least a little bit of an edge from those places, and it doesn't seem to have come to pass.
Totally.
Because here's the thing, is she's actually winning in a lot of the places that are larger downstate. They're not necessarily a ton of votes, but there are a few votes.
And they add up,
yeah.
right? It's like
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like all this green in here adds up, right? Like it's none of it is anywhere near this chunk.
And again, the
but
assumption
it adds up.
I think the sort of the generic assumption was that the less bomb throwier candidate, in this case Christian Murthy, would do better with the so-called downstate Democrat. But I think
Not the
Skelly, you
case.
brought up an important point, which is, if you're downstate in some of these red areas and you're still a Democrat, you may be looking for somebody that'll punch the bully. You
Yeah,
may not
and
be
this,
looking for
and
electable.
this maybe gets back to also just like at the end of the day, the sort of thinking about like Dick Durbin's start as a downstate Democrat, like, yeah, he was like
Very
a more
20th century.
moderate, blue doggy kind.
Yep.
I mean, more of that. And it's just like the way the parties are now, with things polarized, and with your average Democrat is just center left to left, and your average Republican is center right to right, and there's not necessarily as much regional variation as there may once have been.
Let's bring in Mike Madrid. Always a favorite of mine.
Fellas.
Hey, Mike.
Brother.
Great to see you guys. What else would we be doing on St. Patrick's evening?
Well,
this is how we party.
Mike, man, I got a 4-box. It's 2-0 Venezuela.
Schwarber just struck out swinging, and we have two total hits in the bottom of the 7th.
It's
Means we're due, Cillizza. It means we're due.
We have more. Right. We have more drama left in the WBC than we do in this Illinois Senate primary.
Yeah.
What was I say?
I listened to Adam. It's got some real insightful stuff too. One of the peculiar things I was always looking forward to, again, not to be a one-trick pony, but just coming on the heels of what happened in Texas with Tellerico Crockett, there's this narrative establishing in the Democratic primary that these Latinos didn't vote for Kamala Harris. They didn't vote for Jasmine Crockett. Would they vote for Juliana Stratton, right? Is this a racist, misogynist vote? And I don't know, we've done, too early to get the Hispanic dense precincts, I think, drilled down. Maybe not, Jeff. Maybe you can look that tight. I don't know.
That's a good thing. That's a good assignment there, Jeff.
But that's what I'm going to be.
Do a little research.
Yeah. And we may need to do some regression analysis because, again, it's not that Hispanic dense precincts, usually only half the Hispanic community lives there, which is what's so fascinating. It tends to be more recently migrated, more recently naturalized, more Spanish-speaking audience. But then you start getting into the collared counties or downstate counties, and you start to see the other half of the Latino community, which is more assimilated, more right-leaning, more open to, less party anchored. And so it's getting a little bit harder to discern what's going on. But I just want to, again, when we're talking about what's coming up for not just the midterms, but beyond that for the Democratic Party, how is that coalition going to stick? Is it going to stick? Is people of color vote? Is brown, black voters? What does that coalition look like? And I think just so close to what happened in Texas, it might be kind of fun to just kind of poke at those precincts and see what it says.
Mike, I got Chuck and I and Jeffrey have been talking about this. It's like as we're doing these more and more, it's like, okay, what does this say about the party? It's like, oh, well, Tallarico was the less bomb thrower, and he won. Now it looks like Stratton is certainly in the driver's seat, and the F Trump ad, which we paid earlier, like, I mean, that if she winds up winning, that will get some credit. What do you? I know we're dealing with small sample sizes, right? In Texas ain't Illinois and comparing electorates and stuff, but you got all shapes and sizes, right? You got Gavin Newsom, who's made his bones in 2025, at least, with being very anti-Trump, even though I always remind people he started off having Steve Bannon and Charlie Kirk on his podcast, but
hell of a year for 20.
And by the way, now he's fighting the wealth tax.
That's fighting the wealth tax. Totally.
I will say, I think Gavin Newsom is
a true progressive warrior.
He is spinning himself in circles. He attacks, accuses Bibi of apartheid, then he backs out of it. Like, whatever you want.
As the guy who ran a campaign against him in the Democratic primary, I would say don't count him out because it's tough.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, no. I know. But like, so you got like Shapiro, who isn't tough, but is going to be tonally and vibes wise more moderate. You got AOC, who's clearly on the on the left. Like, when you're starting to look tea leaf wise? I mean, we've been talking about this. This is a good night for JB Pritzker because I thought Chuck made the exact right point. The donor community and the kind of people like us who follow this are going to be like, okay, like maybe we underestimated JB Pritzker. You know what I mean? If Stratton gets across the line, what do you make of sort of the 50,000 foot Democratic Party takeaways as we look toward 28?
That's such a great question. Let me say this, and it may be a different answer than you're looking for, but this is really the way I'm looking at the Democratic Party right now. The only time I've ever seen something comparable was the Republican Party heading into the Tea Party movement, where it's just so right for a populist, hijacking that I don't know that looking for, like, is it AOC? Is it Gavin? Is it, Tallarico? Is it Pritzker? I don't think it's anybody that's going to be holding office right now. I think it's going to be.
It's funny you say that, Mike. I'll never forget something Bill McInturff said to me the first time we had a poll. He was the one half of our polling team back at the NBC days.
Yeah.
And I'm like, my God, how do we explain this Trump lead? Right. Here he was. I don't know I can't remember which controversial thing he did or said or whatever. And it was just, it was only like enhancing him. Right. And he goes, well, gosh, and he was in the way, Bill, if you know Bill McInturff, he rarely sort of gets exasperated. Right. But he's like, well, if you just run an entire campaign against immigration, I promise you in a Republican primary, you're going to be the candidate. It doesn't matter what else you say.
Yeah.
And, that's how Trump sort of got in front of the parade. And what you're describing to me is sort of that feeling. This parade is already going. Somebody's going to jump in front of it and become the credible person.
Well said.
Trump was that guy. He didn't create the movement. He just jumped in front of it and said, I'll lead. I'll go ahead and do it.
You got it.
And that's what we're waiting to see here, I think.
Gavin's tapped into that in late 2025. Like you said, it started very differently. That doesn't mean he'll hold on to that tiger.
And Pritzker might be the next participant, the next guy. Hey, let me lead. Let me try. You know?
And we may see that kind of like we saw in the 2016, primary, Republican primary, where somebody's head will keep popping up. But I do believe, like I said, if there's a Colbert, Cuban.
Yeah,
I said Cuban. Cuban keeps saying he
John
won't
Stewart.
run unless Trump runs
John
again.
Stewart. Yeah,
no, I would bet more. It's somebody like that. But
I think it's like a Mark Cuban and Tucker Carlson. Look, Tucker Carlson, by the way, I think if he wants the nomination, it's going to be his. I really do. I don't think people are have that understanding of what's going on in the Republican base right now.
I think people still think that
I'm
Trump
not.
is kind of
it's
an
funny.
anomalous figure
I'm
rather
not
than
fully
a predictive
there.
figure. Yeah,
I'm not fully there in Tucker because I don't know if Tucker has the. Tucker doesn't like people.
There's
right,
that.
like, and
There's
you
that.
have to. Now, Trump didn't like people, but he liked to pretend he liked people.
Well said.
Right, and I think we worried with Trump. Could he shake people's hands? He's such a germaphobe.
That's right.
Tucker, like, there's a reason he lives in the woods, right? He doesn't want to be near people. So in politics, you still have to kind of like people.
Yeah.
Yeah, we learned that with Bill Bradley's
well.
Bill Bradley's challenge to Al Gore. If you are disdainful of the people you are trying to get to vote for you, it will not work.
Yeah. But I do believe, like I said, I think there is a lot of, understandably, and that's kind of the fun of this, is reading the tea leaves on what does it mean, which direction is the party going. I don't think it's going center left, far left. I think it's going top down. I think it's going bottom up. I think it's the tables getting ready to be
that's the
flipped
other
over.
loser tonight, right? The big losers tonight are not any individual candidates. It's crypto and it's AI, right?
Guys, I'm pulling on all sorts of in cities right now. AI is pulling worse than tobacco. AI
Isn't it amazing? We saw this in that new NBC poll. People do not like they're very fearful. But isn't this logical? Ladies and gentlemen, what if I told you the companies that brought us social media and, are going to bring you AI? What do you think they're going to say?
You can trust us this time,
right?
Mike, can you dig a little on
Give
the
us
AI
more of that?
thing?
Yeah.
Is it just this general unease that people are expressing? Is it like where Chuck and I live?
Yeah,
there's 6 billion, not that many. There's literally hundreds of data centers within 20 minutes of here.
It's a pocketbook issue where we live because everybody's electric bills.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
is it a data center issue? Is it like, AI, I don't want to like Terminator, I don't want it to take over? Like, what's the
it's all of that, Chris. I mean, that's a great question. I think first and foremost, it's a pocketbook issue.
Yeah.
First and foremost.
Yeah.
But it's also, like you said, it does tap into the fears of the anxiety that people just feel generally about the future and every day and where all of this is going.
Yeah.
It's everything. Like there's very little redeeming about it at this moment. And it's going to take a hell of a lot of work for people to rebrand these things. They'll figure it out, right? But at the moment, it's pocketbook issue. It's cost. We can't afford this. We can't, things are already bursting at the seams. What are we doing? And then why are we putting that here?
I got one more as we wait. we're looking at these strat numbers. Obviously, Jeffrey and Scott Tranter and the brilliant guys at DDHQ are crunching on this on Stratton and Krishnamurthy. I got one for you, Mike, we mentioned it a little earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Is Tom Steyer going to be the governor of California?
Let me tell you.
I saw a poll that has him ahead, which I assume is just because he's spending money on ads. But
let's talk about that race a little bit. California is, it has historically been a place where very wealthy people run every cycle and none of them win. I mean,
Right.
Arnold Schwarzenegger was kind of the exception.
No,
He also had to have. He also had to have the weirdest. He also had to have the weirdest set of circumstances in order to allow him.
Yeah, and he was bigger. He was kind of trans. He was bigger than politics.
He was not a rich guy. He was a celebrity who happened to be rich.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
totally.
That's exactly right.
Right,
So
right.
there's Al Checky, and then there was Bill Simon, and then there was Meg Whitman, and we just have this long history of people spending.
Carly
People
Fiorina.
always forget Jane Harmon was.
Jane
in
Harmon
that
was
Al-
rich. Right.
She was just not as rich as Al Checky that cycle.
And she was a member, but you're right, totally.
And so a few things that are very interesting that are happening in the California primary right now. First is the top three of all this big Democratic field. They're all white candidates in a state that kind of says, well, we're Democrats and we're diverse and we're
Right,
tall.
so that's
we're
Porter,
different.
Swalwell, Steyer.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And of those three, what's happening is Steyer has spent $90 million of his own money already. He's got to spend, I'm sure, over $200 million.
Did you know that, Chuck?
90 million
of his own?
So
Already.
it is Checky. It is
Already.
Al Checkbook.
I mean,
This is
that's
very Checky-esque.
stunning.
Checky did
And he-
something very similar in that primary too.
And what happens is usually with these candidates is the bottom falls out. They're able, if you look at where his base of support is, it's with very low information voters,
right?
Which I think it's going to be a very high turnout election, incidentally. But that doesn't necessarily mean that will stick and that will stay. What it means is
I'm a
the
skeptic.
real danger of being an inch deep and just collapse.
I know,
But it is worth noting that we're about to talk about a guy that's going to get celebrated in some circles, who's a billionaire governor of Illinois.
Yeah, that's right.
It may, it shouldn't get lost on any of us that sometimes the people that vote that who the people end up picking to take on billionaires are
working class people.
They pick a billionaire, right? It took a
Yeah,
billionaire
Donald Trump,
in Teddy
totally.
Roosevelt to take on the trust guys. It took the Democrats nominated an elite rich guy, an FDR, right, to be the man of the people.
Well, I mean, isn't that the
This
Trump
isn't-
argument,
and
Chuck?
Trump,
I'm
right,
so
the working
rich,
class guy.
I'm so rich, I don't
That's
need
right.
their money, right? I mean, that
Yeah.
was part of Trump's initial appeal.
It does
Can't
work for
buy me
some
off.
voters.
Yeah.
That's right.
And and by the way, the Labor Fed is meeting down the street from me at the Sacramento Convention Center right now. They ended up endorsing the top four candidates because some of the largest labor unions in California wanted to endorse Tom Steyer, and the optics of that are so awful of having this billionaire
Totally
representing
Rich
the organized labor that there was divisions, and so they said, let's just put everybody's together and we'll endorse four of these candidates.
Well, here's
That's very
something else about
Trumpian, by the
Steyer.
way. Very
here's
Trumpian.
another thing about
multiple
Steyer.
candidates.
Another thing about Steyer that I have found that I have previously sort of processed as this is what makes him unelectable, that he doesn't come across as the most likable guy. He's not warm and fuzzy.
Well, he comes across as like stereotypical rich guy.
Yeah.
Right. I know best type of thing. And yet
we're seeing that in the polling.
Yeah. Does that become appealing to some people because they're like, hey, we need our own a-hole?
We're gonna find out. I mean, I don't know how you message into that. That's Morris Katz is running the campaign, right? He was Mondani's guy. That's a different
So
angle.
Steyer's got Mom Donnie's guy. Boy, I can see
American
that.
politics, isn't it? The
Just
best?
remember, baby,
course he is.
green is the color of politics.
Green
$90
is always
million
beautiful.
spent is a lot of money.
So
for a
is Katz
consultant,
working
too.
for him because he sees Steyer as a fellow traveler, or is there something else involved there? I don't know.
I'm
What
sure
could it
there's
be,
a-
Mike? I don't know.
I'm not gonna
Well,
say
yeah,
it.
we
You got a
can't
smart
guess his
audience that can
motives,
figure
Chuck.
it out.
Hey, man, we're all trying to make a living, and guess what? If Steyer wants to advertise on our podcast, he's more than welcome.
100%. We welcome him.
That leaves Porter and Swalwell. Porter has a very strong floor, but she has a very strong ceiling. She can't break out of a range, and she's not dropping down. Like people are with her or against her, and so
they've kind of made their
Swalwell.
mind up.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
Swalwell, I think you're going to see a round of polling in the next coming weeks that will show Swalwell pushing into a higher range now because
What about
he has a strong floor, being on MSNBC for 10 years, being the anti-Trump candidate.
Mm-hmm.
They know him. They like him. Those negatives that are going to come from Steyer's checkbook probably aren't going to push that floor down. But he is the one who has the higher ceiling. And in an eight race, he can get to 25 and pull this off.
Shows you how what we're waiting on here with the Illinois race, that we're talking so much California.
Yeah,
but, I'm going to be interviewing the mayor of San Jose later this week.
Oh, Matt.
And
he's a good dude. He's
got a ton of money behind him. I mean, he clearly and obviously getting in late, sometimes it's Stratton peaked late, Tallarico peaked late.
Yep.
Late is not always a bad thing. The question I've had about him is he just not basey enough?
Yeah. I mean, that's it. What's fascinating to me about Matt, and I know Matt, and I've done campaigns with him, and I think he's a really great voice in the system right now, but timing is so much in politics.
Yeah.
I explain Matt Mahan like this. He's the guy who points out that the foundation is broken while the house is on fire. And people are like, we want a fighter to take on Trump right now. We don't want to hear criticism of the Democratic Party and what's failing at the moment.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of this narrow lane he has in a candidacy with no base, as you just mentioned. The timing just isn't right. And by the way,
and the Republicans are too strong, right? If they were weaker, maybe he could get Republican leaning
he could
voters
peel them.
But they're too strong.
People don't cross over in these partisan primaries. It's an open primary, but you're never going to get more than a 2% crossover.
It's not statistically significant unless it's super close.
And there's a competitive Republican primary on that side anyway. And if Trump leans in, it's going to tell all the Republicans what to do. There's just a lot working. Look, from a governance perspective, Matt Mahan is saying all the right things. From a campaign perspective, I just don't think there's a lane for that. And by the way, there's another candidate in that lane named Antonio Villaraigosa, who's running on the same basic message. So we'll let you get you out of here. But what does Gavin want? You mean like in life, or like what's he going to do next? Is he running?
No, what does Gavin want in this primary? What does he want to see? Does he have a candidate? Is it kind of Swalwell now? And you know what's funny is Swalwell's strongest base of support are those that like Gavin Newsom the most. Okay. Look, Gavin Newsom kind of he's got Ace, right? Isn't his boy Ace?
Yeah, Ace. He's doing his IE, his independent expenditure. So look, the thing, I wrote a piece in the LA Times a couple of years ago about Gavin that said this. Yeah. Where Bill Clinton kind of redefined the Democratic Party by saying it's the economy stupid and moved them away from cultural excess into more mainstream centrism on the economy, Gavin has done the exact opposite. He's championed cultural issues his entire career. This is the guy who in 2004 is blamed by John Kerry for legalizing gay marriage.
Mike and Chuck, I gotta interrupt. Yeah, so Skelly isn't here, but Chuck, why don't you do the honors?
Well, let's do it. We have officially have a call in the Illinois Democratic Senate primary, and most likely the next Democratic senator from the state of Illinois, Juliana Stratton. A big win. And let's be honest, we're going to let you in on a little secret, guys. We did not think we were preparing not to call this race till tomorrow. And that was the running assumption. That was our models. That's right. You had how much Cook County was going to be out, and the assumption that Krishnamurthy was going to essentially win downstate, and he didn't. And
Mike, we got to jump. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure, guys.
We could talk California governor all night,
and we will.
We got a primary in June. We'll hold it for you guys.
We'll be ready. Thank you. Hey, that's a big deal for a bunch of reasons, right? Like African American woman, she was the third African American woman in the Senate.
By the way, the second one from the state of Illinois, because Carol Mosley Braun.
That's exactly right.
In 1992, won a three-way race up with about. The irony here is Stratton's going to win with about 39%. I think Carol Mosley Braun, because I just did this. Tomorrow's Chuck ToddCast will tell you about the top 5 all-time races in Illinois history.
Oh, love it. You're just scratching my nerd itch.
It is by the way, 5. She got 38%. Juliana Stratton is going to be about the same here.
Let's bring in Logan Phillips, our last guest. Look at this timing.
The last guest.
Great
Congratulations,
Logan. Thank you for waiting.
We waited to call it.
He's the closer. Race to the White House, Logan Phillips. Logan, I don't want to speak for Chuck. I'm surprised. I thought we wouldn't call it tonight and that Krishnamurthy would maybe edge Stratton out. If I had to be picked, I would have said Christian Murphy narrowly. Chuck, is that what was your
excuse me. I mean, it was the conventional way to look at this primary was that, right? You had two black women that were going to inevitably split the vote if you were just looking at it through sort of old-fashioned racial lines, and we just got through the Texas Democratic primary. So, it all, I understand why that was sort of the developed wisdom. Christian Murphy had the spent the most money. He had the longer organization, and the assumption was there. I think we've all, I know what I did. I underestimated the power of the governor. And I think that's
100%. Me too.
For me,
Me too.
that's my big takeaway from this race.
Me too. What's yours, Logan, as you look at this?
I think there's two big things here, right? One is that Juliana Stratton was moving at such an extremely fast pace and gaining support coming into the election. I mean, at the beginning of February, she was polling at 14%, down by like 20. By today, she was down by 3% in my polling average. And so sometimes when you're just the candidate that is blazing through the race in these primaries at the final finish, we're capturing with the polling a moment in time that has already passed, and they're just continuing to surge. And I think the second part is that maybe Christian Murphy was just weaker than we thought.
Yeah.
And I really started to get a sense of this when I was listening to the Bulwark's podcast on focus groups with David Axelrod, who is like, if not one of the best local gurus of our time alone, which he is, but also specifically in Illinois.
Sarah Longwell's focus group podcast, as you're talking about, is really, really good.
It is. And
more unique features out there. I like
yes, really good.
And Axelrod's take after listening to all this was that it was just really telling that Christian Murphy, like none of these people in the focus group, even though he's been literally on the air since like August, I believe, had any idea of what he was fighting for, what his central mission of his campaign was, what distinguished him from the other candidates. And I watched a bunch of his ads today in preparation for this. And the sense you would get is this is a nice guy with an interesting immigrant story that might seem like he'd be good at the job. But what he failed to do, which I think is the key to winning these campaigns, is you have to prove not only are you the right person for the job, but the right person for this moment. And Democrats are in a position of absolute despair. It's not just that they're angry. They're in despair at feeling like their country is falling apart and that everything they care about is in danger. And so they want someone that isn't just a nice guy or competent. They want someone that has some fire in them. And
by the way, I don't mean to do breaking news. But
you got to do the World Baseball Classic.
Bryce Harper just bailed us out.
Captain America.
Bryce Harper with the big bomb. Everybody's been waiting. Does Bryce Harper have a clutch gene in him? Ladies and gentlemen,
2-run home run.
He just saved America's hide, potentially. It is now 2-2. I feel like I could lean more into it there, Logan, because of what we got here. Anyway, go ahead.
I'll be the moment I'm done talking to you guys, I got it on pause.
I will say we had 3 hours of us talking and nothing going on for the U.S. or in the Illinois Senate race.
And then boom, boom, yeah.
And then we got Juliana Stratton called just at 10:20, and we got Bryce's home run about 4 minutes.
That's right.
Well, I've been loving this classic. I think it's one of the most exciting events of the year.
Chuck was at the game last night.
I went to last night's game, the Venezuela game,
wow,
and it was
incredible.
It's such a great experience. I encourage anybody to if you love baseball. It's fun to be with a crowd that loves every second of baseball. Yeah.
Hey, Logan, I want to do one more with you and I'll let you go because Chuck and I agree on Pritzker. We agree on Pritzker. Does Pritzker benefit from this? Not with the average voter, maybe, but with kind of the smart set, the kind of people who pay attention to 2028 on March 17th, 2026.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just more evidence. I don't know if this will matter to people when he's running nationally, but this guy has a lot of political skill. And he is one of the 10 people most likely to win the nomination and one of the 15 people most likely to be president in 2028. And if you look at these candidates this early, like if you're pulling around 3, 4, 5, 6%, like just enough there, that gets you at the point where you're getting media attention, you're getting credibility, you're going to get fundraising. But wait, he doesn't even need that, right? Because he's going to be right there with literally everyone in the race because he or beyond them because he can spend as much as he wants as one of the richest people in America.
No, I mean, look, there is plenty of, we went through this before, there is plenty of evidence in the past where voters actually, to take on the rich, give me a rich warrior.
Totally. He knows them. He knows them.
That's what Trump. That was Trump's message.
It's the Trump message.
I know who they are. I've been in these.
I know all these guys. He literally said that.
I'll do one better, not to steal so much just from this one podcast, which I appreciate for giving me some good things to say today. I thought it was uncanny how much Democratic primary voters, who all seem to love Pritzker, literally said the same thing I've heard Republicans say about Trump for years, which is, I love the fact that he doesn't have to care about politics. He's made so much money or got so much money, he didn't have to do anything, but he is in here because he wants to make a difference. And I think that's why, as you guys talked about earlier on the broadcast, there was no price paid for Juliana Stratton getting fundraised or getting all this funding for her campaign and spending for her campaign from Pritzker.
You know, this is something we forget as reporters sometime and as analysts. We're cynical about rich people buying seats.
Yep.
Okay. I cop to it.
I am too.
My name is Chuck, and I'm cynical about people trying to buy their way into politics. But a lot of voters, you know, sit there and they can't believe somebody who's got all of this wealth and all of the ability to, you know, to go do whatever the hell they want to do this, and they are in some ways more impressed than we cynical reporters are. And I think
I also think the other thing I'll add to that, Chuck, is like, while we follow where all the money comes from, I'm not sure the average person is like, wait, that's Illinoisans for democratic values. That sounds like a good group. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure they're like, oh, this is the crypto money. And like, I just think regular people aren't as engaged, understandably, in that stuff.
Absolutely.
Anyway. All right, Logan, you're the man. Thanks, dude.
Thanks. Great.
Let's hope you are our closer, Logan. Let's hope Team USA has a closer.
That's right.
Because we got to shut this baby down.
Yeah. Thanks, Logan.
Thanks.
All right, man. Speaking of closers, Jeffrey Skelly back. Hair still looking remarkably good at 10:30 p.m. So, Jeffrey, we called the race that you guys called the Senate race. Chuck, I just said maybe we should go through some of the House stuff real quick.
Yeah, let's go through it one more time, and then we'll put everybody to bed.
And then we'll say, so Jeffrey, why don't you talk to each of these? So this is 7.
Sure. So this is the 7th congressional district, the one left open. Danny Davis has retired, and he endorsed LaShawn Ford, who's a state representative in the state House of Representatives. And we have not projected this race, and statistically, we're not in a position to because of the votes that are left. However, Melissa Conyers-Ervin apparently has conceded in this race.
Yeah, I heard that.
And so that would suggest that Ford will
That's
win.
usually a bad sign for your candidacy.
Yeah, generally. Now, every now and then you have the weird situation where someone concedes and it turns out the vote that was remaining was a lot better than they could have hoped for.
The unconcession.
Yeah, and then they quickly are like, oh, I obviously, and the concession has no formal power.
Well, when Bill Daley, when we see Bill Daley show up at that party to, and that was a nice little Easter egg for people there.
Love that.
A Chicago guy. He probably voted in that one.
Yep. I'm on 9 now. Again, not called.
Not called. So, we just don't know how much the cook's left, right?
Yeah, basically the situation there is that Abu Ghazaleh is leading in. You sort of have the two progressives in first and second. What you see there is Cook,
right?
But
this is not Chicago.
The split between Chicago and Cook. So Abu Ghazaleh is winning in the Chicago part of Cook, and the vote that we're most interested in is still left from there. So there's still at least a few thousand more votes coming from there, and that's the largest amount that's left outstanding. And if she were to win, which a lot of that later vote is more likely to probably be progressive, younger voters at the end of the day, if she were to win that vote, if she won it overwhelmingly, perhaps she could actually catch Biss.
Which is why it's not called.
Not projected at this point, yes.
And then let me go to 8 real quick. Just make sure we're hitting these. This is Melissa Bean, former member.
Yes. So Melissa Bean, at this point, favored to return, but there's still a fair amount of vote left out here. She had a ton of outside spending backing, perhaps the most lopsided in a way. In this race, I think at the end of the day fell a little under the radar with some of the other contests that were going on. And so, at this point she's favored. I think it's that if you're Ahmed, who's sort of the more progressive option, there's still a number of votes left out from the Cook suburbs. Only a small part of this district's in the city of Chicago. And so anyway, I'd say this is the one where we have sort of the least knowledge of where things might pan out. But
and the most important part of that is whoever wins gets to be challenged in a primary by Raja Krishnamurthi, right?
Exactly. Get his old seat back.
His old seat back.
Gentlemen, anything else you want to see here? Just tell me. I want to make sure we're covering everything that anybody's interested in here. Obviously, this one's already been called. This is the Jesse Jackson Jr. failed comeback attempt.
Yes. So Donna Miller will be.
It's tough to get back to Congress after you've served time for what you did.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's definitely
he was trying to do something that was kind of difficult.
All right, so I'm going to go back to the Senate here, and then why don't we, Jeffrey? Do you want to start with kind of like last take here before we sign off?
Absolutely. So with Stratton, having projected she will win. I mean, I think a big part of this is, and it's tougher to see on this map, but she ran basically even in the Cook suburbs. And that was Krishnamurthy needed to win that, and he didn't. And that's probably why we're here. Obviously, she's won by a big margin in Chicago. Her margin will probably grow in Chicago as we continue to get the votes that are counted toward the end of this process. I will note that I did say that Robin Kelly might carry a county in her district in that southern part south of Cook. And she looks like that might be the one she is.
Kankakee.
Let's go.
There it is.
Yes.
Yep. She's up 500 votes.
Yeah, there are not a lot of votes there.
Yeah.
That's that's redder turf that's gerrymandered into that second congressional district that runs way south. And she was running for Senate, so that's why that was opened up. And Jesse Jackson Jr. was trying to mount a comeback unsuccessfully. I think the other big story is that Krishnamurthy did not win downstate in any real perceptible way. I haven't broken down the entire regional stats there, but I'd say there's a decent chance Stratton won there, which maybe speaks to Pritzker and the support she got there.
Pritzker's name may have mattered. Right. Yep. It's not just the money. It's the fact that, they,
he's popular Democrats.
He's been governor for 8 years.
Yeah, he's looking for a third
Jeffrey,
term.
you said something important earlier, which is the Democrats that are left downstate. Maybe they want somebody who says
that's right.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's
Chuck. I'll give you the last word. I will. The one that I'll say takeaway wise is very early in the night. I believe it was Tom Bowen who said, the plan candidate versus the protest candidate. The plan candidate, Raja Krishnamurthy. The protest, the F Trump candidate, quite literally, Juliana Stratton. The protest candidate won this one. Now, there's a million factors, right? I mean, it's not just that.
Well,
but as we go forward, that is
that's
interesting.
Right. We have, let's be realistic here. We have 2 data points. So we does not have a trend yet. We know 3 makes a trend. May's going to tell us a lot. We've got a big chunk of primaries in May. But we've had 2 primaries. One had a choice between sort of fighter and turn the page. This arguably was fighter versus turn the page, although Raja didn't say it that way.
Right.
We've seen 2 different decisions. Now, look, I think Krishnamurthy, I really enjoyed Logan's that what he was talking about with Sarah's focus groups about how Krishnamurthy never really made the case for why him. He made the case for who he is, but he never made the case. He never made the why. And in some ways, F Trump was simple. It was viral, but it makes the point, right?
Oh, heck yeah.
And look, it's also, Illinois is a different Democratic electorate perhaps than Texas. Well. And that's also
by the way,
worth noting.
3-2 Venezuela.
Yeah.
Eugenio Suarez just doubled. Yep. Nobody out.
And there was a man on second. Yeah.
Not looking great.
Our bullpen was an issue. And
good night for Juliana Stratton. Maybe bad night for U.S. baseball.
That's all right. That's all right. And I can tell you, I know that's
ninth.
We have the bottom of the ninth. Team USA may technically be the home team, but trust me, that crowd is anything but rooting for Team USA.
Yeah, totally.
Although President Trump indicated that Venezuela has a chance. There's a lot of contenders to become America's 51st state. Canada, Cuba, Venezuela,
I know.
Greenland.
Dude, Venezuela now.
Right now, Venezuela is up top, and this president likes a winner, and if they're a winner, he's going to lay claim to them.
And I just want to say, just coming in, last thing with the Abu Ghazaleh race,
show off.
We are hearing through DDHQ. It's not called yet, but looking very, very
She's running out of vote.
Biss. She's just running out of vote, which is what Jeffrey said. But just so people are aware.
Look, let's also not ignore the other sort of data element in the room here. Prediction markets were way ahead of everybody.
They nailed it. Yep.
I know.
They nailed it.
How do you feel about that, Skelly?
We had Jaron on early.
I see her. I'm like, I feel I want to. Your facial expression channels my side, but I can't ignore it.
Yeah, no. I don't think we should ignore it. I am in favor of watching these as data points. I do think they're very reactive, which means that in terms of like trying to use them as a predictive tool is on like before election night in a close race, in a race where there were a lot of undecideds in the polls, like this Senate primary. That's it's tougher for me. Like with the Tallarico number to me is a more impressive data point, right? In terms of that sort of before we even saw sort of the polls catch up in terms of Tallarico's position in that race. We saw that with the Senate in Texas, but at the same time, like if you look at some of the House races, you know, the numbers for like Jackson in the second were bouncing all over the place, and that's lower information, not as much money in those markets. Now there's probably a fair amount. I haven't checked how much, but you know, given the growth of Kalshi and Polymarket, I would assume there was actually a decent amount in that contest, but the numbers were bouncing around quite a bit as the night was going ahead. And of course that had to do with what, you know, new drop of 10,000 votes. What did it say? And the market's responding. So I am not at all dismissing these guys in terms of their meaning. And I do think in terms of understanding like conventional wisdom on big things like the U.S. Senate situation and U.S. House, I think it's telling like where those things are trending.
Oh, it's already shifted. Yeah.
Hey, and guys,
we have an official call here, right?
I was just going to say Daniel Biss, as sort of indicated, Daniel Biss is one that, I mean, probably the race outside the Senate race that the most people paid attention to. Yeah. Kat Ubegizele winds up coming up short in her first run for Congress.
And there it is, Mr. Biss. But let's have a real shout out to the state of Illinois for getting the vote counted fast enough where we all
good job by you
before 11 p.m. And that's
you
really
know, Chuck, I always say this to you. I don't look this good unless I get 10 solid hours of sleep. Absolutely. You can't even imagine how bad I look.
Well, you better get more. I believe I see you in the morning. We're going to do
our weekly, we will have a podcast breaking it all down. Yeah. All right. I just want to say thanks to everyone who watched. Decision Desk HQ, amazing partners. The only place live stream that you got the Illinois Senate call live. I'll just give us a little pat on the back there. Yeah, there you go. But thank you all. We'll be back. Look,
you got the Illinois Senate live, and you got the WBC.
WBC. We're doing. Chuck and I are doing live commentary. That's right. April is slow-ish, but May is giant. We're going to do every big important primary that you want to be in.
May's going to be big, and who knows? Maybe Jeffrey will talk us into that April special.
Virginia.
No, he loves it.
Virginia.
We're starting at 8 a.m. that day, and we're going till midnight. Skelly breaking down each
The beauty of Virginia is literally polls closed, race will get called.
Here's what you need to know about Louisa
It will probably
County.
Get projected very soon, unless it is extremely close. It will get projected.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you all, Jeffrey.
Happens.
Always a pleasure.
Bye, guys.
All right, see y'all. Have a good night, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.